welcome to like my most anticipated video of making for myself, because this is the reason that I created the series in the first place, because I have a little bit of a obsession with lab rats and it's completely healthy, guys. There's nothing wrong with it. So if you don't already know, aka like why you're clicking on this video, if you don't know what lab rats is, it was a Disney XD show about bionic super soldiers. That's like as much info I'll give you, because the first episode will give you like as much exposition as you need. In the first two episodes, Crush, Chop, and Burn Part 1 and 2, Donald Davenport, who is a billionaire, marries Tasha. I guess they like were dating, I don't know how long they were dating because she knows like nothing about him, but they move into his house and she has a son named Leo. Leo's like exploring the house because it's a huge ass mansion, so he's like, oh, I'm gonna go look for rooms. He finds a elevator and goes down it and finds a lab. In the lab are 3 people, he doesn't know their names yet, but 3 people like playing around and they have quote-unquote superpowers. They're bionics. They find Leo down there, so they like call Mr. Davenport because a little bit freaky.
I'm not freaky.
Because they don't know Leo was here to begin with or whatever. Davenport explains that they are bionic siblings and they all have bionics and they like are training to save the world or whatever. His name is Chase. He's my favorite. Chase is my favorite, and maybe that's a red flag, but like not personality wise. He's haughty. And also, I'm so sorry for the disservice of these photos. I needed season 1 photos, so they look baby here, but it's okay. This is Bree, she's the middle child, and then Adam is the oldest, and he is characterized as just dumb, so that's him. Chase has super smarts, and like, that's kind of it right now. Bree has super speed, and then Adam has super strength. And also, they are like secret, so no one knows about them. Leo's excited to have like siblings that have superpowers, which is kind of cool. And so he sneaks them into school because they learn about like him going to school and want to go to school as well. Because they like have been living in the basement for like 14 years.
Living in like basement?
They also like have a party because they're like, they want to have like the teenage experiences or whatever. And then Davenport gets mad and sends them away to a facility of his so they don't live there anymore. And he replaces them with robots. So Leo can still have friends, but they're robots of the exact same people. And also just to introduce other people on board because they will come in naturally, but like I don't know what episode they will. This is Eddie, aka their home security system that can talk. So he's up there even though he only has like 1 episode plot, but it's fine. This is their Principal Perry, who like hates them for no reason. Just because she's me. Anyway, back to robot plot. Leo's sad because he like liked having friends and doesn't like to live with robots instead. So what they ended up doing was switching themselves out for the robots so they're still at home or whatever. Obviously Leo's still like talking to them, and Tasha gets worried that he's only talking to robots, and so she convinces Davenport to send them to a like trash compactor to get the robots killed, which bad because they're the real people. But they end up saving themselves in time because they have bionics, so they ended up getting out. But Leo jumps in after them, and so they have to go back and save Leo. And through all this, Davenport realizes that they're also teenagers because they're bionic superhumans, meaning they have human part too. And he allows them to go to school. In episode 3, Commando app, they're all at school, and I assume it's like their first official day or something like that because they were only there like half a day when the whole pilot situation happened. And Chase has a hidden app in his bionics that basically like makes him like have a different personality that's like hyper masculine and like crushes everything in his path, and he's also like super strong when it happens. And the Commando app comes out like somehow, I don't remember exactly how, but it comes out like at lunch, and then the other like persona of Chase when he's under the Commando app is called Spike, and so Spike comes out and makes enemies with the football team because he like threatens them or something like that. And Spike becomes like popular, and so like Leo's happy because he was like a loner in school, so he's like, oh, maybe now we can be popular, and they're all like reaping the benefits of Chase like literally being under a different persona right now. And then he like also switches back to Chase and he's like, okay, what happened? And then he's really confused like why everyone's mad at him, like the football team, because he doesn't remember what happened when he was Spike. Perry gets angry that Chase is threatening the football team, and so they set up like a football battle, if you will, like whoever wins the football team like wins popularity, I guess, I don't know. And they don't know how to play football, even though I guess when Chase is under the Commando app he can't use his bionics because I feel like he has super smart, so he would know how to play football, but he was Spike in the moment, so I can't really say that. They don't know how to play football, so Leo's trying to teach them, but he's also like scrawny, so like yeah. They are losing severely until Spike just ends up like crushing people to get a touchdown or whatever. But right when they like when they're gonna have the winning touchdown, he goes back to Chase and they end up losing. And they all learn a lesson that they shouldn't have like exploited Chase or whatever. In episode 4, Leo's jam. Leo wants to ask a girl to the dance, and so he's asking Chase and Adam to help him like set up a situation where she will fall in love with him, basically. And how they did this was they planted Adam underneath some lockers and then pretended that Leo lifted it up when in reality Adam just like pushed it up himself because he has super strength. And because of this, the girl ends up liking Adam instead. And so Chase tries to talk her into liking Leo, but it ends up that she just likes Chase. And so she says, oh, I'll go to the dance with Chase instead then. And so Chase just goes to the dance with the girl. And also, Bree's plot this episode is that she wants this guy to ask her to the dance, but every time he comes up to her, she gets nervous and like speeds away. This is like the reason this was so iconic to me as a kid. Like, this episode was my favorite because of this moment. Since Leo is mad that Chase is going to the dance with the girl that he wanted to go to, he purposely teaches him a bad dance to like say that it's popular so he'll embarrass himself, and it's called the refrigerator dance. And I loved this dance as a kid. I thought it was like the funniest moment ever, so that's why it just like holds special memories in my head. The girl gets the ick at the dance when Chase does the refrigerator dance.
Open the fridge, grab the eggs, open the mail, spread the mail, all over your face. I want a pickle, fish for a pickle. Grab that pickle and swing, grab that pickle and swing. Stop, what are you doing? I'm swinging an invisible pickle.
And then Adam tries to dance with her and ends up like throwing her through the roof or something like that. And so she's like, okay, no, this is not for me. And then Leo comes in and does a little dance, aka like it's a good dance, and so she's impressed and they dance together. And then at the end of the episode, they all do a like the dance Leo did, they all do one. I think Chase like does the worm or something. On episode 5, Rats on a Train, they get their like first official mission, and it's to save a runaway train that's going like 300 miles per hour. Leo really wants to go on the mission because he's like, oh, this is so fun, like saving the world, but they say no, obviously, because he has no bionics. But he sneaks on the mission by going in like their cargo bag. What was in the cargo bag was necessary to stop the train, so he like takes it out and puts himself in the bag. So that's a big no-no because they don't have the thing that's to stop the train now. And what they end up doing is like Bree speeds ahead of the train and like wraps cords around this bridge, and so they all pull on the cords to make the train stop with the like force from the bridge or whatever. Also, this clip is in the intro. It's like they're all leaning to the side and like screaming. And the whole episode, it's kind of like a B plot, but it's kind of just like a throwaway bit, is that Tasha is a like newscaster, and so she's trying to catch the train every time she's filming in the woods, and like she keeps on missing it. In episode 6, Smart and Smarter, there is like a competition at the school for like the student of the semester, and Chase really wants to win it because he's like the smartest one or whatever. And he does this by implementing like things good for their health, or like tardy trackers, because he's like, oh, I'm making people's lives better, but he's just being an annoying menace. And Adam runs against him because he just feels like it, I guess. And he makes it like fun, so he has like a hot dog truck and stuff like that. And in the other plot, Bree and Leo are fighting because Leo keeps being late for class, so he makes Bree speed him to class, and she's annoyed with it and doesn't want him to use her for her powers. Also, with the whole student semester thing, Chase and Adam are fighting, and it's like tied or something, and they have to like write like a winning essay, and Chase like botches his on purpose so Adam can win because he feels bad. Exoskeleton versus Grandma. Leo's grandma comes to visit, and Tasha doesn't like her own mother, which is so fair because she's like overbearing or something like that. And Davenport is currently building a exoskeleton for a like conference thing that both Leo and Chase are helping with. Usually Chase helps him every year, but Leo wants to help this year, and so Chase is jealous of him because of it. And in this conference, Leo is the one who gets to be in the exoskeleton, so Chase purposely reprograms it to make it go crazy. Also, they can't really explain to Tasha's mom that like a bunch of random kids just popped up when she got married, so they say that they're like the house staff. And so I think like Bree's like a personal trainer, Adam's the cook, and like Chase is the nanny, to my knowledge, the nanny for Leo. And they're all having dinner, and then since Chase wired the exoskeleton to go crazy, the conference already happened, but it was like boring, whatever. And then the exoskeleton like comes to life and then attacks everyone at dinner. And then Chase and Leo work together to like defeat it or whatever, and they're friends again. And then they tell Tasha's mom that like everyone that they're just Donald's children. They just like say that, and then she's like, oh, okay, that's fine. In episode 8, Bionic Birthday Fail. It's Leo's birthday, and every year his mom throws him like a surprise party, but she can't be here this year, but he just thinks that she's covering for another surprise party. So she's like, oh, my mom will definitely be there, but everyone else knows that she's not going to be there. The siblings try and throw a surprise birthday party for him because they feel bad that Tasha's not going to be there. And then they tell Eddie to just like lock him in the lab for how long they have to set up the party or whatever. And then they forget about him. So they don't invite him to his own birthday party, if you will. So he's like locked in the lab and literally can't get out. And they're just partying upstairs. And then they finally come down and they're like, oh crap. And so they have to like make it up to him by doing something. I actually don't remember. In episode 9, oh my god. Episode 9, Death Spiral Smackdown. I don't remember anything about this episode, except for the B plot, I do believe, which is with the photo and the title, which is Leo and Adam are paired together for a PE challenge, and it's like the spinning thing, and they have to like fight another group on it or something. And Leo has this friend who's like there one episode. I do not remember anything about this episode otherwise. Oh, and also Leo specifically is paired with Adam because he wants him to use his bionics to win, and Adam doesn't want to. In episode 10, Can I Borrow the Helicopter? All I remember is that Leo is trying to impress a new girl that he likes named Janelle, which I'll put on the board right now. Here she is, absolute icon. She stays in like the whole show, so she deserves a picture. He's trying to impress her, and so he steals Davenport's helicopter. I got this from the description. I have no idea what this episode is otherwise. In episode 11, Back from the Future. I really like this episode. Future Leo travels back in time to try and stop Adam, Bree, and Chase from going on a mission that they die at in this future timeline or whatever, because Davenport canonically created time travel in this like future thing or whatever, and they're told not to tell Adam, Bree, and Chase that they die on this mission. But I think like future Leo spills the beans or something like that they die, so they go anyway because they're like, we were meant to protect humankind or whatever. And this whole time Davenport is trying to build a robot that'll do the mission for them so they don't have to go and die, but they go anyway. And then Leo follows them because he's like, oh, I need to go save them. And then like a cave collapses on him, which was the collapse was supposed to kill the 3 of them, but they moved out of the way in time. But it collapses on Leo and he's like magically fine. He has like no injuries, which is crazy. And then future Leo goes back to his like time in the present, and it's like changed. So the butterfly effect exists. Episode 12, Chip Switch. They switch their chips, believe it or not. In this episode, Leo and Perry are stuck in the elevator together because there's a fire drill, and they both use the elevator to get out of using the stairs. So they get stuck in it because of the fire drill. And Adam, Bree, and Chase have to save them, but they have different bionics because they switch their chips. And then they like go back home to switch again, but they switch wrong to not the right bionics for each person. So they all have to like figure out each other's bionics, if you will. And they end up saving Leo in the end, by pulling up the elevator or something like that. Episode 13, Drone Alone. Donald and Tasha go on vacation to like Australia or something like that, somewhere fun. And they leave the kids home alone. And Leo, when he's leaving the lab, when they like go to sleep. Also, I forgot to mention that they sleep upright in capsules because that regulates their bionics. So they literally sleep standing up. Leo turns on what he thinks is a nightlight, but it's actually screws their bionics so hard that the next morning when they wake up, Chase can't see anything. Bree sped somewhere. They don't know where she is. And Adam is speaking backwards, I do believe. And then they I think they figure out how to like balance it or whatever. They like use a specific thing. And when Chase is trying to reroute like Bree's bionic chip like to the GPS back to the house, he accidentally sends a fighter drone into the house. And like because he accidentally sets the GPS for the fighter drone and not her. So she comes back, she's like, what GPS? I didn't get it because she used a map. But then the fighter drone crashes into the ceiling and they have to fix it before Tasha and Donald come back. Episode 14, Chore Wars, another iconic episode. Adam, Bree, and Chase all use their bionics to do chores because they really like getting money. Capitalist dreams, you know? And then they do all the chores in the house, so they're like, we need another way to get money. And so they have a yard sale, which is literally selling the things that are in their house. And they accidentally sell Tasha's old, like, I forgot what it is, like a jewelry box, I think. And basically, Donald was fixing it for, like, her birthday. So they sell it, and they have to get it back. And they basically spend all of their money that they earned to get it back. And then Donald fixes it and breaks it, like, in, like, 5 seconds. So it was all for nothing. In episode 15, Dude, Where's My Lab? They go to the beach because Tasha says they all need a break from electronics. And at the same time, they need to stop a missile from, like, hitting Earth or something like that. It's something stupid. They have to, like, reroute a rocket or something like that. And so he brings a RV that is secretly a lab to hide it from Tasha. And they all have electronics that they're hiding. And Adam, Bree, and Chase are supposed to stay in the RV until the missile's there to disarm, but they don't because they want to go enjoy the beach. So they all leave at one point, so no one is in there. And the alarm for the missile goes off, and so their RV gets towed because they think it's a car alarm. So it gets towed, and they do not have their lab. Problematic. They have to pay to get it back from the tow place, so they do, like, street shows, and Chase does, like, magic with his bionics to, like, and it does not work. No one is vibing with that. Adam paints himself silver and is like the the Tin Man moving things. And Bree does something. I don't know what she does. They go to, like, the beach prison or whatever, because I'm pretty sure they do not have a permit to be doing street performances. So they go there, but they eventually get their lab back. They disarm the missile, blah, blah, blah. And once they're done with all that, they don't have any beach time, so they're sad. In episode 16, Air Leo. Leo signs up for a one-on-one basketball tournament with the bully Trent, which I don't have a picture of him. Probably should have. He's kind of here forever. And he uses these shoes that Davenport created that, like, make you, like, jump really high, so he's basically cheating. And the shoes can be controlled, like, remotely, I'm pretty sure. And so Trent steals them from Leo because he's like, ooh, nice shoes, I'm gonna steal them. Chase, like, controls him to the point where he, like, falls or something like that and, like, gets really embarrassed. And also Leo can score points. And then Janelle knows that they're, like, special shoes, and so she's disappointed in Leo because she's like, you should be playing real basketball or something like that. And so he doesn't use them and loses because he wants Janelle to like her. In episode 17, Night of the Living Virus, Bree's having a sleepover at the house with all of her fake friends from high school, aka they're all, like, mean bitches. And Leo is in charge of watching something load on Davenport's computer, but then he gets impatient, and so he types something, and a random virus infects, like, the entire computer system of the Davenport household. So Eddie basically is possessed to be evil, if you will. And also, before that happens, Adam and Chase are trying to prank the girls at the sleepover because that's what they see in, like, movies, and so they're like, oh, we should prank the girls, and they, like, do some really stupid things, and, like, I think they put ants in their sleeping bags or something like that. But once the virus rolls around, they're all trying to, like, live because he's, like, terrorizing them, and all the girls run out except for, like, one of them who's named Caitlin, and she is Bree's friend for, like, the rest of the series. And she's low-key insane. In episode 18, Mission Invisible, they are in the school, like, just the three of them in the hallway for some reason, and an AC unit falls from the roof or something like that. It's about to crush Leo, so Adam catches it, but it's on camera. It's on the school camera. Like, the tapes are with Perry, so they try and go to Perry's office to steal it. It's, like, parent-teacher conferences, so she's gonna, like, rat them out to Davenport for, like, being bad or something like that. I don't know. And they don't want Davenport to find out that they're on camera using the Rhionics, and so they are trying to steal it before that happens. But then he's in the know and helps them steal it because he doesn't want their secret out, because it's his fault. He would go to jail. In episode 19, Concert in a Can, we get a new character, so let's put him on board. We have this absolute diva. Here's Marcus. This photo is so iconic. I love it. They meet Marcus at school, and he has a guitar, and so Chase plays it, and since he's super smart, he already knows how to play the guitar, but right before that, he says, like, oh, I've never played the guitar before, and then he plays, like, it perfectly. But they make a band. Chase, Marcus, and Adam, they make a band. And Leo is already suspicious of Marcus because he's, like, very connected to these two already. And also, he's friends with Bree, but they're just, like, as a unit, you know? And there is, like, a father-daughter fair or something like that, and so Bree wants to spend time with Davenport and, like, do their own little thing, but he gets distracted with the whole band business and instead makes a new thing called Concert in a Can, where they perform at the fair. And when they're rehearsing as a band at the Davenport household, because Marcus does some stab story about, like, his parents hate him or something like that, and so they can't do it at his house. They go to the Davenport house, and Marcus breaks his own guitar and then blames it on Leo, and no one believes Leo. To tie up the Davenport and Bree plotline, basically, she gets mad that he's spending time with the boys instead of her, but they do the Concert in the Can together, and they're happy. And they, like, both do it terribly or something like that. Then they all have a combo, and Leo comes in with, like, security camera proof that Marcus broke his own guitar, and then Marcus fesses up and said, yeah, I broke my own guitar because it was dented, and I was scared that my dad was gonna, like, kill me, and so I said that Leo dented, or, like, broke it instead. And everyone believes him for some reason. And then Marcus is giving evil vibes to Leo afterward. Episode 20, Mission Space, aka this season finale. Chase finds out that he has telekinesis at school for some reason. I think, like, a football is flying at Bree, and then he, like, moves it because he figured out he's telekinesis. And he does not tell Davenport that he found out a new ability. He does not tell it. And then he's, like, researching it because he's, like, looking into his... Oh, I forgot to say. They're bionic because they have bionic chips in the back of their neck that connect to their nervous systems. That's why they're bionic. That's how they get their thing. So he checks, like, his chip, and he's like, oh, I have a bunch of secret abilities that are, like, locked. Then he tries to unlock them, and he can't unlock them. They go to space for a mission because they have to, like, fix a satellite. I don't remember the details, nor do I care. And then Adam is, like, on a tether, and then he accidentally, like, burns his tether with his heat vision. He also has a heat vision, I forgot to mention that. He burns it, and then drifts out into space. And then Chase uses his telekinesis to bring him back to the ship. And while this is happening, while they're in space, Marcus goes to the Davenport household because he claims that he needs to be there because his family hates him, and Leo has to watch over him to make sure he doesn't get into the lab. But then Leo doesn't pay close enough attention, and Marcus gets into the lab. And then he's like, oh, this is so cool, like, what's this room? And then Davenport says that it's like the capsules are like a washing machine or something. So Marcus leaves, feigning innocence in the whole thing. And then Chase spills the beans that he got telekinesis, and Davenport says that they have a bunch of secret abilities that he doesn't know how to get, and he doesn't explain it any further. And then at the end of it, aka like the big cliffhanger for the season, is that we see Marcus talking to like a mysterious voice about taking down the Davenports. So we'll see. Okay, the way that my mic was not on for all of that is absolutely wild. So sorry about that. The vibes are that Leo is literally hating Marcus because Marcus is evil and he knows that, and so he's like constantly hostile towards him, even though these three are friends with him. Marcus does his eyebrow thing whenever he says an evil thing to Leo. So just Leo calls him eyebrow boy once, which is really funny because he does a little one eyebrow raise thing. And Davenport shows them a new self-driving car that he makes. So he basically made a Tesla. But it goes like really, really fast. And he also says that they have to do a update on their chips, but they want to go have froyo with Marcus, and so they leave, even though Leo is supposed to be the one that's like making them stay or whatever. And so Leo follows them to the froyo place and is watching over them. And the important thing is that they took Davenport's self-driving car, and then Leo gets in the car, but that's after Marcus sets it to go to the bottom of the ocean. So Leo is trapped inside the car and speeding towards the bottom of the ocean. And then they have to save him, and Marcus is like suspiciously gone at this point because he obviously shouldn't know that they have bionics. He does. That's because he's evil, but they don't know they have. So he just like conveniently leaves, and then they have to save Leo, and Chase uses his like projectile mapping thing to like direct where Adam throws his force field. So Adam throws on behalf of him to catch the car before it goes to the bottom of the ocean. And then they're like, "Oh, how did you end up going to the bottom of the ocean?" And then Leo doesn't tell them that it was Marcus, even though he has an inkling that it was Marcus, because that would be Marcus' behavior. In episode 2, Spy Fly, Davenport has like a little fly that's like has a camera in it. He has a fly with a camera in it, and so Leo steals it and uses it to spy on Bree during a test that they have, so he can get the answers from her. Are they in the same grade? No idea. Also, they're taking a test in the cafeteria because this show has like no sets. For Chase and Adam's plot, they have to take care of babies for health class. Like they're like robotic babies, and if they get hurt or like neglected, then you lose points, and like your final point on the baby is your final like grade for the assignment or whatever. And then Adam accidentally like hurts Chase's baby, and so they have a competition on who can hurt the other's baby the most. And like Chase puts his in the dishwasher. I think Adam uses Chase's baby in the waffle maker, and they both like have really bad scores at this point. And then Perry confiscates the fly because she sees Leo using it, and then she uses it to spy on the student body. Illegal, but whatever. And basically, the spy fly was in like a big group of them. So Perry accidentally releases all of the spy flies, and they go like everywhere and are like swarming people. And then Chase uses his baby to save Adam's baby from being swept away from the flies because they like pick it up, and so he throws his baby to catch Adam's, and they both get a bad score. In episode 3, Missing the Mission, they all have the mission alert, but then they miss it because they're in detention because they miss so much school because of missions that Perry is mad at them and puts them in detention. And then Leo tries to get them out of detention, but it doesn't work, and so he goes on the mission for them. And I don't remember what this mission was or how it ends up, and I don't remember anything else. Episode 4, Quarantined. They have a mission to get some samples from like some toxic gas or something like that. Bree is texting a boy. I think it's Ethan. I think that sounds right in my head. She has like 2 boyfriends throughout this whole season that are like weirdos. So I think it's Ethan. She like gets distracted during the mission, and then they have to go back later to do it, and she's by herself, and she's texting while she's doing it and takes off her gloves, and she gets contaminated by the gas. And her capsule detects it, so she has to be quarantined inside her capsule and inside the lab, I do believe, in general. And Leo is in charge of watching her. And then she escapes to go to Ethan's art expo because he's like an artist, and he makes like a painting out of paintballs of her for some reason. And she only goes because she has no side effects from the gas, so she's like, "Oh, I'm fine." And then she ends up like losing all movement in her limbs, and then breaks his painting of her, and then Leo has to like drag her away. Then she gets like movement back or whatever, and they'll have to like carry her or something because she still can't move. And I have no idea what Jason and Adam are doing for the rest of this episode. Episode 5, Robot Fight Club. There's a robot fight club. Chase and Leo are in, but Davenport tries to like help with their robot and basically makes it like too high tech, and they're like, "No, this isn't fun anymore," because we wanted to make it ourselves. And then so Davenport gets mad and enters the fight club himself to beat them basically, and he creates like this big robot that basically like destroys all the other robots in the competition. And then when it comes down to the final battle, they win because they thought of like an idea that was the one weakness to his robot or something like that. I have no idea what Brig is doing this entire. It's probably like a plot with Caitlin because That would make sense. In episode 6, Bro Down, Chase does a prank on Adam that makes him think that he's like vulnerable, and so he doesn't want to go on missions anymore, and he's really scared about getting hurt. I don't remember anything other than that. In episode 7, the rats strike back. They all go on strike from training for the missions because Davenport basically trains them all the time and doesn't let them have like friend time. And so they're like, we teenagers too, we need teenage time. And he goes, no. So they go on strike against their training. And Leo is in charge of their like strike thing, and he's like the one communicating with Davenport about like what they want. And then Davenport makes a deal with Leo that he will be the like showman for his new jetpack if he just gives up on the strike. And so Leo agrees. See, Davenport's actual plan is that he won't have Leo show the jetpack. It'll just convince these three to do it anyway because they know that it's not going to work. That does not work. Leo does show the jetpack and it goes horribly. And he like crashes into the roof in front of the people that they're showing it to. Then they don't want to buy the jetpack because of it. And Leo almost dies, I'm pretty sure. And they decide that they deserve kid time. He agrees to that. He says, yeah, you can have teenage time. I don't care anymore. Davenport creates, it's like a proton infuser or something like that. Basically, it can open a portal to different worlds. And they all think it does nothing because it doesn't like start. And so they all go up to watch a movie. Leo has to do the dishes instead of watching the movie, and so he gets mad. So he goes down to the lab, and turns out the portal did actually open, so he gets sucked into a parallel universe. And in this parallel universe, Leo is the bionic one, and his mom is the billionaire, like the tech billionaire instead. And Davenport is like her assistant. And so he has bionics for the first time, and he's like loving it. And then he goes to school, and he sees Adam, Bree, and Chase, but they're not Adam, Bree, and Chase, aka they are like, the last name is like Henderson or something like that. They're all rich too. Chase is a jock, and then Adam is like poacher guy. He ends up accidentally showing them his bionics, and so they report him to the FBI. And the FBI is basically hunting Leo in this alternate universe, and they like hold him in prison in his own house. And then they end up getting out because Perry in this parallel universe is like nice to him, so she ends up helping them get out. And he goes back to his universe because nerd or like assistant Davenport in this universe also made a proton infuser. That's real convenient. And he convinces Davenport to like himself better or something like that. He's also very appreciative of everyone when he gets back because he's like, oh my god, my family. And so he is happy to do the dishes now. Episode 9, Spike's Got Talent. There's a talent show at the school, and Leo wants to do magic because he like knows a decent amount of magic. And so he's very excited to do that. But Chase wants to be popular, and so he steals Leo's magic idea by using his telekinesis. His magic is cooler, and so everyone likes him more. And then because of this, Leo gets mad, so he finds a device that disables Chase's bionics, and then it makes him embarrassed at the talent show. His commando app activates, so Spike finds a bunch of people, and I have no idea what Bree and Adam are doing. This might be the episode where they want to join the cheer team together, because I don't think I wrote that down that plot anywhere else. So I think that's this episode, is that they want to join the cheer team. They like end up fighting against the head cheerleader because she's like, episode 10, Leo versus evil. Leo ends up following Marcus home one day and sees that he has an evil lair underneath his house. And then he gets out and like no one believes him, so he goes back to try and get proof, and then he gets attacked by this big robot thing that almost kills him, and Marcus is there and he's like, you won't like defeat me or whatever. Basically Leo has his phone, and so he's like filming this whole thing with like the big robot thing, and he ends up getting out of the lair and he goes back home, and then he's like, oh, I have proof, and then he drops his phone in a teleporter, which includes the B plot. The B plot is that Davenport makes a teleporter that doesn't transport humans yet. The three of them are just like goofing around with it and end up sending Tasha through it on accident. And then the whole time they're like trying to figure out a plan to like get her back, aka make the teleporter work so it can transport humans back. And then the whole time Adam just called her and told her what happened, and then she took a bus back. So the whole time they were like, Adam, no, like your plan won't work, and it's just he just called her. And then Leo is obviously freaking out, and he's like, there's a layer underneath Marcus's house. So they all go to Marcus's house to see if there's like an opening, like Leo said, and it's not. So they're all like, okay, you're literally like insane. And then the mysterious voice and Marcus are watching the security cam. The mysterious voice like says to Marcus, like, you were supposed to get rid of him or something like that. In episode 11, Hole in One, Davenport gets like a really expensive painting and puts it in his art gallery, and then they accidentally put a hole through it because Adam uses heat vision on accident. They were like, oh, okay, if Davenport's keeping the painting anyway, we'll just repaint a new one so he never notices. But then Davenport ends up selling it, and it's a fake painting. Obviously it's like a copy, so he gets investigated by like the police for selling a forged painting. And Adam basically dumped the real thing in the school dumpster, so Perry stole it for a mini golf course or something like that. So they have to get a hole in one on the course in order to get the painting back. That's what she says. And Chase uses telekinesis to move the ball to get a hole in one, so they get it back, and they bring it back, and like Davenport is mad at them for obviously making a hole in it, but he's like, okay, at least like I won't get in trouble for like using a fake painting. In episode 12, Trucked Out, Adam gets his driver's license, and so Davenport is going with him to go buy a car. And then they see a monster truck in the lot and like really want to buy it, but Davenport's like, no, Tasha will never like that, but they end up buying it anyway. Davenport just buys it and says that he's going to keep it a secret from Tasha. And Tasha wants to be closer to Leo, especially at school, so she runs for the head of the PTA. I don't know who's the head of PTA right now. I guess there's not one, but whatever. And Leo does not want this to happen because it's like overbearing mom. He does not want that. And so they make Perry run against her by basically gaslighting Perry into believing that Tasha is like talking about her. And so they use like, oh, Brie also gets voice manipulation, which just means that she can like copy someone's voice. So they copy Tasha's voice to make it seem like she's talking shit about Perry, but she's not. When Tasha is making her speech for like the elections of the PTA, the monster truck crashes through the wall of the school. And so she realizes that they kept the monster truck and she gets really mad. And then they return the monster truck, to my knowledge. In episode 13, the Bionic 500, there's a new neighbor in their neighborhood that's like speeding down the street in like the middle of the night with like a race car, so it's very loud. So Davenport invites him over to basically tell him to stop, and then he says, no, I'm also rich, I'm not going to stop. And then the neighbor guy basically says like, oh, so if you want me out of the street, then how about we just battle each other or like settle our differences for the entire street. And so literally if Davenport loses, then he loses his house, and of course he says yes because he's cocky as shit. And they end up doing a race with race cars, and the neighbor guy hires a professional race car driver, aka Joey Logano, to race for him. And Davenport's under the impression that they were both racing themselves, so he's racing him like with his own car. Joey Logano, his plot is that Perry's obsessed with him and she's like repping or something, and so she keeps on following him around. And then at the end of the episode, she has his uniform, so maybe they fucked. Who knows? And basically Davenport ends up winning because Joey Logano quits because he realizes that it was like unfair because he's driving and then they have a professional race car driver, so he just leaves. Episode 14 and 15, aka Bionic Showdown Part 1 and 2, we figure out the identity behind the mystery voice person. I think we might have seen it in the season already, but I'll put him up on the board. Here we have Donald Davenport, aka Davenport's brother. Diva, absolute diva, love him. Also, he should be next to Marcus, but like spacing just doesn't work out on it. So Marcus is his android son. Marcus is an android. That wasn't explained before, but it is in this episode. And basically, Douglas kidnaps Davenport, and so the three of them go to save him. And I don't know like what plot happens, but they all fight in the lair, and that's when you figure out Marcus is an android because he like fights them. Leo shows up in the exoskeleton to help them, and then ends up like not helping them. They figure out that they're brothers, obviously, and so the kids are like really confused because they've never met this guy. And Donald says that's because he wanted to use Davenport Industries for like bionic soldiers, and so he was like, I'm not fine with that. Kicked him out of the company. And then from all the fighting and the exoskeleton and everything, the layer is about to collapse, and so they all get out of there except for Marcus, and he's in the middle of the room, and it all caves in on him, so he technically dies. Bye-bye to Marcus for now. Also, they do not catch Douglas, and he goes into hiding. In episode 16, Memory Wipe, Davenport has a memory wipe device, and then Leo gets like grounded or something, and so he's wiping Davenport's memory of like the time that he got in trouble or whatever, so he can like go places. And then he uses it wrong and accidentally takes off like a lot of his memory to the point where Davenport is in like the mindset of a teenager. And the same day, Davenport's supposed to have a news interview with Tasha because she is like literally married to him, so it's like a good interview for her publicity. And then they accidentally take off more when they try and fix him, and so he's like in the mindset of a 2-year-old while he does the interview, and Tasha's really confused. And then Chase like fixes the device or something, and I'm pretty sure the interview that was published is that he was acting like a 2-year-old, so fun for him, I guess. He did not want to stay. Episode 17, Avalanche. There's an avalanche. But the reason that they get stuck on an avalanche is because Chase feels inferior to Adam and Bree because they have like the better abilities, which is true, but they're like buddy, and so he feels left out. And Davenport wants this material from like this, I don't know where it is. It's in the Arctic somewhere. And it's like this really rare material that he can get a lot of money for, so that's why he wants it. And they can't go because there's like severe storms there, so they all decide not to go, but Chase goes by himself because he's like, oh, I can do missions all by myself. And then he gets almost had a really bad situation there. He gets caught in an avalanche and almost dies, but then lo and behold, who saves him is Douglas. And at this point, Bree and Adam are looking for him because they know an avalanche hit and they know Chase was out there, but they are trying to look for him. But he's gone because Douglas took him to a tent to like nurse him back to health. And then Douglas wants to get into the lab, and so Chase pretends to be tricked by him to betray his family, but then it's just a trick to get him in the lab so they can like capture him. And then also introduced in this episode is a freeze ray, so they freeze Douglas in a block of ice and like lock him away in a prison. But the B plot of this episode is that Leo accidentally, when showing the freeze ray to Janelle, freezes Janelle into a block of ice, and then when Tasha sees it, he gets scared, so he freezes Tasha into a block of ice. And then Adam uses his heat vision to melt them both. They're mad at Leo. And also, they don't lock Douglas in like a prison, they lock him in like a storage unit or something. So think of Douglas like when Han Solo was encased in carbonite. Episode 18, Adam Up. Davenport makes a cloning device, which I don't know why. I don't know why you would need that. But then Adam gets really interested in it and makes a copy of himself to go to school for him. And then that copy makes more copies. Oh my god, this is literally a plot of Gravity Falls. So, like the Dipper clone episode in Gravity Falls. And then there's like a certain device that gets rid of the clones. You have to like shoot the clones, but then they end up with 2 Adams in the end. And then they have to figure out which one's the real one. And I'm pretty sure it's like whichever one, like attack Chase or something like that. Very iconic episode. It's episode 19, Llama Drama. Chase is in charge of guarding because their high school mascot is a dingo, but they have a rival school and their mascot is a llama. So the rival school tries to steal the mascot of the dingo. So Chase is in charge of guarding it because Perry said so. And then Adam is also with him, to my knowledge. And then they do end up stealing the dingo because like Adam wasn't paying attention or something. And so Adam goes back to the rival school to go find it, and he finds it, but he also steals a literal llama from the rival school. So they have that in their lab because he brings it there. The best line of the show is said in this episode.
I can't believe you stole a llama and brought it here.
I think there's like a weird plot of the llama gets like hurt or something in the lab and he like eats something, but they have to return the llama eventually, and they leave it in like the parking lot so Perry can return it for them. And I don't know what Bree is doing during this episode, to be honest. In episode 20, The Haunting of Mission Creek High, it's the Halloween episode. Their homecoming dance is coming up. Perry tells a story of so many years ago in the school, some janitor guy died from getting stuck in a pencil sharpener, and so he got like sharpened and died, and that was like right before the homecoming dance, so he always haunts the homecoming dance or something like that. And this scares the bully that they have, whose name is Trent, to get back at Trent for bullying specifically Chase and Leo. Adam is also with them, but like it's vengeance for them specifically. They play into like the whole ghost thing and like create a bunch of fake things that scares Trent even more. But then actual ghost shit happens and it's like directed against them, and so they get scared and think the ghost is actually real and go Ghostbusters style into the dance to try and catch it. And Bree's plot is that she's planning the dance and she is doing it with her boyfriend. I assume it's a boyfriend at this point, Ethan. They're arguing about whatever they want the theme to be because he wants like space and she wants like country. And then she ends up like moving all his decorations out, and then they're like fine in the end or something like that. When they try and catch the ghost at the dance, they basically like ruin all the decorations in the process, and they figure out that the ghost all along was just Perry and some guy using special effects. Episode 21, Perry 2.0. The school is like severely under budget, and so they don't have a lot of like tech, and Davenport makes tech for them. And in this tech is a robot version of Perry that like gives everyone detention, and it is like causing everyone just pain. And so Leo and Chase try and disable it, but they end up turning it to like military mode because it was originally a military robot, and it like tries to kill everyone, including the new people that Davenport's showing the new school tech to, and they end up disabling it in the end. I have no idea what the B plot is. Episode 22, My Little Brother. Adam like turns his strength up to like 10 or something like that. Like it's like higher level than it usually is, and so Chase puts it back down and ends up shrinking Adam to like 2 inches tall. So Adam has to go run around and try not get like hurt. And then while that is happening, Bree wins like principal of the day or something, and Perry's still being mean to her about like the job or whatever. And so she calls Perry's mom to come yell at her for being like a delinquent student. And then while Perry is acting in a delinquent way, she's like eating hamburger or something, and Adam is inside the hamburger somehow. I don't know how he got there, but he's also in a little ninja suit. I do remember that. Yeah, he's inside the hamburger, and so he almost gets eaten. Chase and Leo find like a garbage can where Adam would be, and they find, and then Chase puts him back to normal size. In episode 23, Prank You Very Much. Adam and Chase are pranking everyone in the house, and they're sick of it. aka they're pranking Bree, and she's sick of it. And then Bree wants to prank them back because of it, but she's terrible at pranking people, and so she's getting advice from I think Davenport or something, and her pranks are also not working. But then she gets advice from Tasha, and she does a prank where like their video game controllers are stuck to a magnet on the ceiling, and then she puts a like pool of expired meat and milk underneath them, and it drops them into that. Because Adam just had that on the back burner for another prank, so that's why it's there. And I have no idea what Leo was doing. Episode 24, 'Twas the Mission Before Christmas. It's Christmas Eve, and they end up having to go to a mission in like a dome or something like that because the scientist is in danger from a like reactor of some sort, and it's like about to explode, and like if it explodes then the whole place explodes, so they have to they can't leave the room because Chase is holding it with his force field. They kind of have to leave because it's eventually going to blow up. And then I don't know how they spin it, but they like put something around it that lets them escape, and it blows up. The entire space blows up. And then the rest of the family is waiting for them to come back for Christmas, obviously. But then Perry gets a flat tire and comes to their house, and then just like stays in a tent in the living room with all 7 of her cats. And then she like intrudes on their Christmas the entire time. But they come back Christmas Day, like dinner time, I do believe, and they all have Christmas dinner that Perry made, and then she like says that they should pay her at the end or something like that. Episode 25, Trent gets schooled. Trent is like has one more class left to do before he can graduate because he's like a super senior. Like he's like 21 or something. It's like crazy levels. So he has Chase and Leo help him pass the class in order to graduate. They just want him to get it wrong, so they like use these like glasses that'll give you the information that, so they program the glasses to give him the wrong information, and he fails the test, and so he can't graduate. But they didn't know that it was for him to graduate. They just thought it was a normal test, and so they want him to retake it because they want him to graduate. And he passes the second time, and so Perry makes him the new gym teacher, so he's still like basically bullying, but now he's bullying students. I don't know what the plot is for this episode. In episode 26, No Going Back, aka the finale, so we got actual like plot. Douglas escapes because a masked figure helps him out of the ice block, and he ends up hacking the lab. When he hacks the lab, he also hacks like Davenport's like bank stuff, so he loses all of his money and his house. Adam, Bree, and Chase are not there because they were at the school one day, and then they were like all alone. I don't know why the 3 of them were just there. Perry finds out that they have bionics because they saved her using their bionics, and so she's like, they're scared that she's going to report them to the FBI, so they run away. They run away because they think that the FBI is coming to get them, and then they're trying to look for Adam, Bree, and Chase because they realize that they left, but they cannot because Douglas then blows up the lab. New photos because we're in season 3 now, so technically they don't look like this. This is season 4, but close enough in my mind because those season 1 photos, I didn't want to look at them anymore, and also they're just not a good representation of what they look like in season 3, so they sort of look like this. Episode 1 and 2, Sink or Swim, part 1 and 2. They run away and are stowaways on a cargo ship, and like they turn off their GPS locators, hence why the rest of the family cannot find Adam, Bree, and Chase because they turn off their GPSs because they think that the FBI is after them. While on the ship, they hear about a sunken submarine that like I don't know if it had people in it, but it had like something in it. So they take it upon themselves to save the submarine because they're heroes or whatever. So Adam like swims down and then like pushes it or something like that because super strength, and he doesn't come up for a long time. They both think that he died, but in reality he like can breathe underwater. Not a new ability, just a thing in general, I guess. And also they turn on their bionics in order to get the submarine, so their GPS trackers are now back on because they said to like locate Adam in the ocean or whatever. And also the shot of Adam like stopping the submarine underwater is in the intro. And then a helicopter comes above the ship because they're about to get arrested for being stowaways, and then a helicopter with who they think is Davenport rescues them, and it's actually not Davenport, it is indeed Douglas, and he just has a cyber mask on, so it looks like Donald. And then they wake up in a random warehouse in a cage that they can't use their bionics in, so they are trapped, and then Douglas is there with them. And then Douglas drops the absolute lore bomb that is that Douglas is their real father. I mean, they're genetically engineered. Real father is a stretch, but Douglas was the one who actually made them, and then Donald was the one who stole them away. And since they have their GPSs on, Donald can see that they were taken away, and so he finds the warehouse, and then Donald alone comes to rescue them. They low-key are wondering, why he kind of lied to them their entire lives by saying that he was their father, but he was like, I didn't want to get into the family drama, it's messy. And then the masked figure that broke Douglas out of prison is revealed to be this guy named Victor Crane. He, his little lore story is that he injects himself with bionics to take over the world. That's his goal. So him and Douglas are teamed up to, first of all, get these 3 back because Douglas wants to keep them as super soldiers. Victor wants to kill them because he wants to be the only bionic person ever. And then they like knock them out and leave the facility. But when they get back home, they realize that they are not possessed, but like they got what's called the Triton app put into their chips. That means that Crane and Douglas can like mind control them. So Chase gets like possessed, and then they unpossess Chase by Leo preaching peace and love about family. Love that. Like he literally just says like, oh, remember how like I brought you to school for the first time and like how such a good times we've had. And then he breaks out of it, and then he has to fight off the other 2, and they all get out of the Triton app or whatever, and then Donald ends up putting a block on their chips so they can't get mind controlled yet. In episode 3, the Jetwing, they realized that he got hacked, so they gave him back his house, but they didn't give back any of his money because it was all stolen by Douglas. Donald is now poor, but they still have the house. And so he's trying to raise money to build a new lab since the last one got blown up. Sorry, my camera was lopsided. Leo thinks they have the idea of doing a stunt, like live streaming it to get money, like in donations or whatever. Davenport, I think, has or built a Jetwing that he's going to fly, and they get like one sponsorship from like a shipping company or something like that. And then while he's flying the Jetwing, like on live stream, his parachute ejects, and then so he can't down. They can't use their bionics to save him because without the lab, they don't have capsules, meaning their bionics aren't being regulated. So all of them are glitching really bad. Specifically Bree and Adam, because Perry is using them as like slaves because now that she knows they're bionic, she like has that over them. And then without the parachute, Davenport will just eventually run out of gas. So he's just like coasting in the air until Adam shows up, and since he's glitching, his heat vision shoots up and burns off one of the wings of the Jetwing. So they have to emergency land Davenport because he's like plummeting to the earth. They're trying to figure out like a crash pad for him, so they get like a bunch of cardboard boxes. Chase ends up using his like telekinesis to crash land Davenport to the boxes, but he passes out before he gets to the boxes. So Davenport ends up laying on top of Perry, and it breaks the fall, so he lives and they get money. Episode 4, Mission Creek High. Perry's really interested in the fact that they're bionic and like to go on missions, and so she really wants to go on a mission herself, but they're like, no, like we're not doing that. But so they make a fake mission for her, which is just also, since they get money in the last episode, they get a new lab. Like they have one now. So they bring her to the new lab and just pretend like it's a mission site. And while she's in the lab, she gets into the computers, and Davenport's working on a government project right now, which is like missiles or of some sort. And she sends a missile to the high school. And at the same time, Leo and Janelle are there because Janelle is convinced that every time they hang out, something bad happens, which is true. She's correct. But Leo's trying to convince her not. But then the missile starts flying towards them. But then Leo ends up saving her by just like pulling her behind something, I guess. Like before, I believe a car is flying at them, and then he pulls her out of the way. So then she's convinced that he's actually like, he like saves her from bad things. So they're happy. And then I do believe that from the lab, they have to stop the missile. And I think they just like counteract it with a car of some sort. Episode 5, Zip It. Tasha leaves the house because she is like going on vacation, or it's just for the day. I actually don't know. And then she gives a list of chores for everyone to do. And this includes, I do believe, Leo, like Davenport, and like Adam. Leo, Davenport, and Adam have chores to do, but they don't want to do them, and they're trying to pawn them off on each other. And then they end up creating a zip line in the house that's like goes super fast, and whoever gets like the fastest time on the zip line doesn't have to do the chores or something like that. And they end up ziplining so much that by the time Tasha gets home, none of the chores are done, and then Davenport actually crashes into her from the zipline on her way in the door. And then while this is happening, Bree and Chase, well, Bree already had a job to my knowledge at a tech store in the mall that is called Tech Town, and then I think Chase gets a job as well. I actually don't know if that's this episode, but it does happen in this season, and I don't have it anywhere else in my notes, so I assume it happens in this episode. Episode 6, Not So Smartphone. Adam and Chase film what's called bionic bowling, I do believe. It's like them using the bionics on Chase's phone. And since he works at Tech Town, there's like a sale for new phones, and his phone gets packaged in with the new phones, and so they have to go find it unless someone's going to have video evidence of them using their bionics. So they have to go to like the new phone sale and try and find Chase's phone. And at the same time, Davenport is also at the sale because he wants to get a new phone for Tasha as an anniversary present. And then he like has to wait in line and like ends up losing his spot in line or something like that. He's just trying to get into the store, basically. And then they find out that Chase's phone is actually the display phone for like the new phone, and they finally get it. But then they realize that when Leo was filming, he was filming his face the entire time, so the camera was flipped the wrong way. And I'd like to point out, this is literally a plot of Henry Danger, which video coming soon, but it's literally almost an exact copy of a plot of Henry Danger. In episode 7, Scrambled the Orbs, Leo has his own little invention that he makes like protection orbs from Trent specifically, because even though he's a gym teacher, he is still bullying him relentlessly. And then they end up like almost killing Trent, and so Tasha tells him to like stop using them because they almost killed someone. And then Leo's like, okay, I'll lock them up in the lab. And then he locks them up in the lab while they're specifically going to the school play, which Adam is in, and he has one line that he forgets at the play. And I'm pretty sure it's like origin story of Mission Creek. And Janelle's also in it, and then she's like, literally, Adam, you just have to say one line, and then he forgets it. And I don't remember what the line was. While they're at the play, the orbs actually break out of the lab and then chase Trent to the school. They almost kill him at the play and end up like destroying the set of the play or something. And then Adam remembers his line like after everything is destroyed or something like that. I don't remember what Bree and Chase are doing in this episode, which leads me to believe that it's a Tech Town B-plot. And I think it's the episode where Chase has to create an app for work because it's like a competition, and he just takes like Eddie's beta app and it ends up turning evil and like taking over people's phones. In episode 8, Principal from Another Planet, a lunar eclipse is happening, and Perry comes over and thinks that aliens exist, and so she thinks that the lunar eclipse will have like alien activity, and that Chase is impregnated with alien eggs. Chase specifically, I don't know why. She thinks that he gives the vibes that he's like possessed by aliens or something like that. And then Perry turns into an alien fully and then starts like eating stuff. And then she hatches eggs in the school and they like follow her and end up saving Leo from like being eaten. And then they like get the alien out of Perry and it goes back up in the UFO, and then it says like, if this is what you have for humankind, we don't want your planet. And then the entire episode, JK, actually didn't happen. It's a film that Leo made. I did move my camera down a little bit because it kept on falling down. In episode 9, Taken, Douglas is warning Leo at school that Crane is like an insane guy and that they should like be on the watch. And then Leo is like, okay, whatever, like you're evil too. And then Crane ends up kidnapping Leo and Tasha and putting them in like a sauna that is going to kill them. Because of the constant threat of Crane like being out in the wild, Davenport put a protective shield around the lab so no one could get in, but no one can also get out without his like password for clearance. When he realizes that Leo and Tasha were kidnapped, he goes by himself and locks the three of them inside the lab so they cannot get out. And then basically they disable the protective shield from there, and Crane knows that it's disabled, so he geoleaps, which is just teleporting. He teleports into the lab and tries to kill them. They get everyone out, and Douglas decides to not stay with Crane and like goes on the run, I think. Hi, we're back a different day because the last time I filmed, I was deathly ill. If I sound congested still, that's why. And that if I sound congested in the last one, that's also why. Season 3 has not been a good experience so far. In episode 10, 3 minus Bree, there's a like study abroad program for Australia, and Bree really wants to go because she like got the opportunity to, and then Davenport says no because of missions, even though she can literally speed back for missions because she has super speed. And then later in the episode, Bree's still mad about it, but then she wants to go to a concert, and Davenport says no because she has to update her chip. And then she takes this upon herself to say, yeah, I can't do anything because I'm bionic. And so she smashes her chip. Because of this, Adam and Chase have to take missions by themselves, and they are not serving because they kind of need super speed to make everything work most of the time, and they're not doing well. And then Davenport is trying to fix her chip because she changes her mind and wants to be back on the team, but he's like, oh, I don't know how to do that because I didn't make your chip. In episode 11, Which Father Knows Best, Davenport is still trying to fix Bree's chip because he doesn't know how to fix it, and he's just like trying random things, and they're all not working. So Leo goes to hunt down Douglas and finds him at a like hot dog stand in the park. And then Leo sneaks him into the lab to fix Bree's chip. Donald gets really mad because he doesn't want Douglas in the house, and then they end up working together to fix their chip, and they manage to do it. But after all this, after their teamwork, brotherwork, whatever, Donald still kicks Douglas out. So very rude, very not fun. And the B-plot of this episode is that Adam and Chase are trying to ride Davenport's new motorcycle, and they're trying to find a cool way to ride it as like two guys because none of them want to sit like behind. That's like the whole plot. JK, that's not the whole plot. It's because they're trying to find a new way to get speed for missions. So they're like, oh, let's use a motorcycle. And then Adam also picks up like a random old lady and then says that they can just give her bionics to be the super speed. And it's like someone's grandma. He just picks up someone's grandma from a parking lot. I'm not even lying. And then at the end of the episode, all the children convince Donald to go back and like have Douglas stay with them because he's like homeless or whatever. In episode 12, Cyborg Shark Attack, there's a new like shark movie out, like Jaws-esque, that they all went to see. And Leo was like freaking his shit out in the movie theater because he's terrified of sharks. And then when they get to school, Leo then blames all the screaming on Adam and Chase instead to impress Janelle because she likes sharks. And then so Leo's like, oh, I wasn't the one screaming in the theater, definitely not. And in retaliation, when Leo has Janelle over one day, Chase and Adam set a cyborg shark out in the house. I don't know why they had this. They do not explain it at all. At least I think so. And then there ends up being two sharks somehow, and they try and like eat people, and then they have to like stand on top of things in order to not get eaten by the sharks. And then Leo ends up tackling one and disabling it. And I have no idea what Bree is doing this episode. In episode 13 and 14, you posted what? Part 1 and 2. They go on a mission to like fix a pressure leak of like some tube or whatever, and then they go to school the next day like normal. And then there's a video of them using their bionics, and it's like their faces, like you can definitely see them. So everyone's like, oh my god, you're bionic freaks. And then the FBI goes after them, including Donald, because he was harboring government weapons. And then they blame the fact that they got recorded and they didn't notice on Chase because he's supposed to scan the mission sites, and he did, and no one showed up, so he's very confused. And also he checks his chip log or whatever, and there's no one there. So he's like, oh, the person like must be invisible or something like that. Douglas and Leo go to investigate the mission site to see like what if anything's like weird or something, and they find bionic traces that aren't the three of them because they went in a different direction. So that's suspicious. And then they go back to the school for some reason. I actually don't remember why. And then Crane and a new person show up. This is S1. Yes, she does not have a name because Crane, I guess, hates her, but she is a bionic soldier and an absolute diva. Crane and S1 attack them, so a support beam falls on top of Leo's arm. It is like broken beyond belief. So Douglas takes him back to his like warehouse or whatever and gives him a bionic arm. And with all of the family being under investigation from the FBI, they kind of can't leave their house, but they end up escaping to go see Leo and eventually find Crane in like a random warehouse, and then they fight him there and end up convincing the FBI that they fight for good and that Crane is the bad guy. So they put both Crane and S1 in prison. In the ending shot, Crane is communicating with a bunch of bionic soldiers who are teenagers. Why'd you have to make them teenagers? That's kind of weird, man. That's a little bit suspicious. Episode 15, Armed and Dangerous. The three of them are now under control of like it's like a branch of government that's like for like supernatural things or something like that. So he's in charge of them because they're like military weapons or something. I don't know what they actually call them, but it's just like they're dangerous. So he's under control of them. And he is on his like marketing game. He's like, PR, let's go do some press conferences to just because you're famous now. And they're like, okay, like whatever, but that means that they're not training, and so Davenport's very mad about that. And they're also blowing off missions, so Donald and Leo have to pick up the brunt work of it, and they're not happy about it. And then while the president is coming to meet them, they end up embarrassing the guy that's in charge of them, and so Donald can be in charge of them again, and they can go on missions because they realize the error of their ways and that they shouldn't just blow off missions all the time to do PR work. In episode 16, Alien. This is so stupid. Why can't I say the word alien? In episode 16, Alien Gladiators, it's the Star Wars-esque episode. We love it. We have some off-brand Star Wars in here. They're all going to an expo for like a famous movie series that is like Star Wars. It's its version of Star Wars. And there's a famous baseball player in it. I do believe it's a baseball player. And then Brie wants to go as the princess in the series because she has like a pretty outfit, I think. And then her friend Caitlin also goes as the princess, and so they're fighting because Caitlin thinks that she really wants to meet the baseball guy, and they're like fighting over who gets to meet him. And Adam is carrying around a petition to add a space dog into the movie. And the whole time, Chase is just a nerd about the series. He's just talking about how he loves the series so much or whatever and wants to meet the baseball guy because of that. And while this is happening, Leo and Donald are in like a lightsaber-esque competition thing where you literally just hit light sticks with each other. Harry ends up showing up as like a secret competitor that's like really good, and so her and Leo fight, and I think Leo wins. And because of Bree and Caitlin's fighting, they end up in like the event center's jail cell, which doesn't exist. I love the Disney channelification of just like mall jail. Like that doesn't exist. I think it's hilarious. So they're in Expo jail with Karn Barar, who is also a nerd, but he's LARPing, if you will, for the series and like made his own character. Okay, so I think this one was filmed out of order because obviously in the last episode they are publicly bionic figures now, and because in this episode, like in the jail cell, Chase convinces Karn Barar that he's actually like he has telekinesis to get the keys for them to get them out, even though Chase could just use his telekinesis because they are publicly bionic. So I think it was just filmed out of order because they're like, oh no, we can't like show people that have telekinesis. And I was like, but you can. You're actually publicly bionic since last episode, but I guess not. And then they escape, and on the way out, they actually see the baseball guy, and he signs Adam's petition for the space dog. In episode 17, Brother Battle, Chase is tired of being thrown around by Adam all the time because Adam is stronger than him, so he like picks him up and throws him. So he asks Douglas to unlock a new ability for him to fight against Adam, and he ends up unlocking a laser bow, which is like a lightsaber that comes out of his hand. And because of this, Adam gets mad because he wants a new ability as well if he's getting one, and he's also scared of Chase now because he has a lightsaber that grows out of his arm. And then Davenport finds out about this and tells Douglas to stay out of it because he shouldn't be giving them more ability. And Douglas's way of fixing the problem is giving Adam another ability, which is increased lung capacity, meaning he can like blow a lot of air. And then to make it extra fair, they also give Bree the invisibility app at the end. And also Chase and Adam are like on good-ish terms at the end. As good terms as they can be on. Episode 18, Spike Fright. They're at school one day, and then some random girl asks Chase to do a like chemistry project with him, and he usually is like doing projects for people, not with people, and so he's very excited because for one, a girl is interested in him and someone is actually doing something with him. And then Adam gets jealous that a girl is interested in Chase and not him. So he tries to embarrass Chase at the house when they're like doing the project. And then like what sends Chase over the edge is that Adam jokes about her being his first kiss, and so his commando app engages, and so Spike then like goes crazy and tries to like kill everyone. And then I don't know if they like fail the project because she just like leaves, and then she's scared of him obviously because he was like insane. Also, they're publicly bionic at this point, so I feel like that could be explained away. Obviously not released in the order that it should have been, but it's fine. I have no idea what Bree is doing this episode. In episode 19, Face Off, they are using cyber cloaks, which are like cyber masks, so it's like you make your entire body like someone else's. Bree uses a cyber cloak to pretend to be Perry to prank Adam, and then the cyber cloak ends up getting stuck, and they dance the same night, and so Chase has to go to the dance with the guy that Bree got asked by, because Bree is stuck as Perry and Chase has to go as Bree, so then he won't like be mad at her, and he's not happy about it the entire time. And then I think Adam is part of this plot and just like laughing at Chase the entire time, and I don't know what Leo is doing. Episode 20, Merry Glitchmas. They have action figures for like the holiday season because they have merch now because they're publicly bionic. At least something is continuous in this season. And then they're just action figures, like they don't have anything cool that they do. And so Chase wants to add like voice lines in them to make them cooler. And then he also adds bionics into them because he thinks that was a good idea. And they end up going like haywire because the bionics don't mesh well with the dolls. And so they like put them in a box and just like leave them because they're like, oh, that was a failed thing. And then Tasha accidentally takes the box to the kids' toy drive that's at the school. So they end up attacking the kids. And then they have to go there and stop all the dolls from killing everyone. All the presents were destroyed at the toy drive. And so to make it up to the kids, they play as like their dolls. And then basically Chase made his fly, and so they're all the kids are expecting him to fly, but he can't, obviously. But the rest of them are normal, just because Chase had a lame bionic set, and so he wanted to give a cool ability to the doll. I feel like he could have sprung a little laser bow in it. Episode 21 and 22, Rise of the Secret Soldiers Part 1 and 2. Davenport is leaving for like a week or something, and so they decide to have a reality TV show come to the house to do a mission with them because there's tabloids saying like wrong stuff about them, and they want to prove them wrong. And then they all are trying to look good on camera and end up botching the mission completely and like making the power go out a lot of places. And then because of this, the public hates their guts. And so they decide to break up the team. And a group of crazy people attack the White House, the actual White House. The president makes them get back together. And they scout out the location of where the like crazy people were supposed to be. And then they find out that it's Crane's bionic army. And then they have a fight with like all of them or whatever. And then they pull out some fuck ass shit was never explained before. Basically, if they line up back to back like the three of them, then if their chips form a triangle, then they can create like a sonic blast and they blast Crane into space. That's so stupid. And so he is hypothetically dead. And also Davenport gets shot and like unconscious and practically dead. Also, I'm sorry for going back and forth between saying Davenport and Donald. It's in my notes as both. Also, I feel like I forgot to mention, but Leo's bionic arm, it's not just like an arm, it also has a laser sphere in it. So that's why he goes on missions now. It's because he has a laser sphere. In episode 23, Bionic House Party. Davenport is currently like comatose, so they're trying to find ways to make him better. And Leo ends up going to the hospital and taking his laser sphere and putting it into Davenport's body so he comes back to life. But what this accomplishes is that it also drains energy from Leo, making him age rapidly to the point where he's like an old man. Also, when they blast Crane into space, they did not do anything with the army because they were so worried about Davenport almost dying. So the army just like ran away because they follow Adam home from the mall. And so they're all in the Davenport household. And they find out that they lost their memory, but the government still wants them because they want to put them in custody. And right as they're about to be taken away by the FBI, they all feel really bad about it because they all lost their memory and literally don't have any memory of trying to kill people. So Davenport creates a school for the bionic people to train them, and it's on a random island. This is when we're entering the new era of Bionic Island era.
Living on a bionic island.
I don't care for it, to be honest. I liked the original plot structure way better than whatever the island shit is, but we're not in season 4 yet. We still have a few episodes of just island introduction for some reason. I feel like this all should have been season 4, but whatever. In episode 24, First Day Bionic Academy, they all go to the new island and like check out the new trading place or whatever, and it has like maybe 4 rooms that we see. So it has a trading room, a main room, a cafeteria, and like mentors quarters, which the 3 of them are mentors, and then Leo is a student because he just got his bionic arm, and so he's really mad about that because the rest of them get to be mentors. And he's also on, there's like a hierarchy system for like the amount of training that you have or like the skills that you have, and so they're like colors or whatever. He's on the lowest color with like the little kids. Also, we're introduced to some new students, so I'll put them up now. I'm also taking off Janelle now because she's not in any more episodes physically. She's still there, as in she's like dating Leo. On the same level as Leo are Spin and Bob, and Bob is like a mini Adam kind of, and Spin is just like a kid who can spin. That literally, he named himself Spin because they all named themselves because they had soldier names before that. So he named himself Spin, he named himself Bob, I do believe, and he's just dumb like Adam. That's literally his whole thing. And then another student in there is Sebastian, who names himself Sebastian as well, which is like a crazy thing to pick. But he has a crush on Bree, and he's also feuding with Chase because they're both smart. And they fought in the battle with Crane or whatever. And they're also especially feuding because Chase as a mentor is very like control freak, and so Sebastian is not vibing with that and wants to create his own class. Since Leo is having kind of a mental breakdown about being in the lowest class of training and also not being a mentor, he punches a hole in the foundation of the island, and so it starts sinking. Then both Chase and Sebastian's classes join together and they work together to bring the island back onto its foundation. Episode 25, Adam steps up. Davenport leaves him in charge of the island because it's him and Tasha's anniversary, and then Adam takes it upon himself to teach Bob to do bad things while Davenport is away. Chase and Sebastian are still feuding. They continue continue to do this for a while. And Bob ends up going missing, and no one can find him because he's on a jet on the way to Mission Creek to go get them pizza, because they were talking about how they missed like a specific pizza place. So very sweet kid, but dumb. And then they try and tell him how to land the jet so he doesn't like die, and he ends up pressing the wrong button because he's colorblind. And then he turns the autopilot off to the point where he is now going to crash. And then Adam goes up to get him in another jet, which he crashes both jets for one, and then he also crashes into the roof of the Davenport household and ruins Donald's and Tasha's anniversary dinner. Episode 26, Unauthorized Mission, aka the season finale. Adam, Bree, Chase, and Leo, they all go on a mission, but they bring Sebastian because he's like the highest level of training or whatever, so they want to give him like mission experience, but Chase won't let him do anything the entire time because he is feuding with him still. And then Spin and Bob hear a mission alert and then take it upon themselves to go, and then Leo has to go save them because they fall in quicksand. And then Chase and Sebastian settle their differences because they both hate Adam, and so they make a training simulation to basically torture Adam and end up bonding over it, and now they're besties. And Bree is just there the entire time. I kind of no plot herself, so she's just like in that plot, kind of. Since Chase and Sebastian are all besties, Chase feels inclined to tell him everything, and so when Sebastian asks about like how they weren't made by Davenport, Chase tells him everything about Crane and how they actually ended up killing Crane. And so now Sebastian feels inclined to avenge his father and like kill everyone. But he doesn't tell Chase this, obviously. So he's evil in secret right now. We're now in season 4, so these photos are actually, they make sense now. This is what they look like in season 4. I just put them up to season 3 because I felt like it. Perry's also here because she is hired as the head security of the island because Davenport wants her to stop bugging him. Episodes 1 and 2, Bionic Rebellion, part 1 and 2. Perry believes that there is like something wrong, like someone is doing evil stuff on the island, but no one believes her. And then she figures out it's Sebastian, but Chase doesn't believe her because Chase is like, no, that's my best. And then they have like a test thing. It's like for some device that Chase and Sebastian made together, and then basically Sebastian rigged it to almost kill Davenport. They save Davenport and think nothing of it, like the fact that no one rigged that thing. And then he convinces 2 other people to join his rebellion, which is one person from Bree's class, one person from Adam's class, so it's like a strong one and a fast one. And then Sebastian basically is complaining about how he wants more abilities, to the point where Chase like resonates with him and gets manipulated into giving him the password to all his abilities. So Sebastian unlocks all of his abilities, and then he takes the weapons from the like weapons vault, and the transportation that they have on the island is like it's like a hydroloop or something like that, and it's run through a tunnel. So he puts the weapons in the tunnel to purposely like leak the oxygen from the hyperloop when Davenport is in there, aka trying to kill him, because he thinks that like since they killed his father, he'll kill theirs. Editing Natalie here, just to clear up the timeline of events. When he tried to kill Davenport the first time, the training device was actually in the season finale, and I just didn't put it there because I forgot when I filmed it. And the second time that he tries to kill him is with the hyperloop, and that's when he like says to the group of like, oh, if you killed my father, then I kill yours. But he said it to the camera in the season finale. And also Perry is in the hyperloop with him, and then they call Davenport from the hyperloop. Basically his thing is being broadcast to both rooms that's going on, and so all of the students find out that they killed a creator. So that's not good, because now everyone's like, oh, I'll join the rebellion because they killed our creator. Leo is in that other room with all the students, which is blocked off from the other 3 fighting the Sebastian and his 2 others. And Spin and Bob end up helping Leo escape the room because they're trying to kill Leo. And then since Sebastian unlocked all of his abilities, they end up tricking him into using all of them to where his chip gets overloaded and it blows up. But he doesn't blow up. That's so lame. And then they take the bionics out of the 3 people who started the rebellion and end up taking them to jail. And then Davenport explains the whole lore of how Crane was evil, and so all the students are like, okay, that's fine. Episode 3, Left Behind. Adam, Bree, and Chase want to take the students on a field trip, but Davenport says no because they're not ready for the outside world. So then they take him in secret anyway. It's Leo starts to distract Davenport, and then he ends up trying on Chase's mission suit and getting it stuck, and so their whole plot is trying to get him out of the mission suit without ripping it. And then they go to like an arcade/restaurant thing, and they accidentally leave Spin and Bob there, and then Spin and Bob have to end up hiding from some robbers that come to rob the same store they were in. Real convenient. And then they come and save them. Spin and Bob realize that it's what it's like to like fight real missions because they like saw the robbers or whatever. And then they get in trouble with Davenport, but then it's fine and dandy because Chase realizes that he tried on his mission suit, and so he gets really pissed. And then Davenport's like, okay, we'll call it even. And then he ends up ripping it when he gets it off. In episode 4, Under Siege, Perry's niece comes to the academy, which she was introduced last season, but I don't remember what episode. All you need to know is that she's like kind of insane and acts nice around Perry, but then is like a living menace otherwise. And so that plot was with Chase and Bree, and so they both know that she's like an actual menace to society. And then bad things keep happening at night, like Leo's tablet gets like smashed completely, and so they are blaming her niece for it. I think her name is Carrie. They're blaming Carrie for it, even though she is claiming that she didn't do it, but Bree and Chase believe she did because she's a menace to society. And they all decide to do like a night scout to see what's happening. And then Perry gets hurt the first night, as in she's like, it's blasted. And then they find out the damage is from bionics. And so they're like, okay, so it can't be Carrie. Then what is going on? Do we have another rebellion? And then Douglas gets hurt later, but he wakes up and then he tells them that it's Leo who's doing it because he's sleepwalking. Carrie is in the mentor's room and Leo almost attacks her, but then she tackles him to the ground and wakes him up. And so he's like, oh, what's going on? The reason Carrie was in the mentor's quarters was because she was trying to steal stuff. And so they send her back through the Hydro Loop and they say that police is on the other side and they handcuff her to the place. So did she actually get arrested? That was my question. Oh, and also the reason that Leo was sleepwalking and like hitting stuff with his arm was because his bionics were glitching because he doesn't have a capsule. Douglas makes him a mini capsule just for his arm. In episode 5, Bionic Dog. Adam finds a random dog on the street and decides to take it back to the academy because why not? Sorry, I forgot to take Sebastian down. Yeah, he will not come back. And then they find out, because since the dog runs up to Douglas, they find out that it's Douglas's old dog named Otis, who Douglas put bionics in. So it's a bionic dog. Adam loves Otis and wants to keep him, obviously, but Chase is allergic to dogs, and so he says no to get him off the island. And then Bree and Leo's plot this episode is that they're fighting over like character AI, as in like it's on Leo's phone and they're fighting over the phone because they both have low interest on this character AI. I'm not even lying. That's the whole episode, is they're fighting over the phone. And when they try and kick Otis out, because basically Adam is trying to hide him so they don't kick him out, but then they finally do, Otis uses an override app to override Adam's chip to make him act like a dog. Otis tries to kill Douglas, and they realize that Otis was actually programmed to kill Douglas because he was programmed by Crane before he got lost up in space or whatever. So they have to fight off Otis so he doesn't kill Douglas. Chase chooses to cover himself fully in peanut butter and run around to distract Otis so they can take out Otis's chip. And then after Otis's chip is taken out, he pees on the phone that Bree and Leo are fighting over, so they're done fighting over it. They send him away to a family with the last name of Crane, fun fact, but there's no relation, so it's like a fun little joke. In episode 6, Mission Mania. Leo's mad that he isn't getting recognized as like an official member of the team because he isn't getting the recognition that they are getting. Okay, he's not famous and they are. And because of this, he creates a hotline and like a commercial for missions, and so anyone can call the number for like their mission alerts, and so they're getting like hundreds of them. And then because of this, there's like they get so overwhelmed with the amount of missions that they have to go on that most of them like are like very stupid emergencies that don't really have anything to do with their bionics. And so they decide not to go to one, and so Leo goes by himself, and it turns out to be an actual emergency, and a bunch of people are trapped in a helicopter that's falling off of a roof. And then Leo is stuck holding the helicopter and can't move. And then he calls the hotline, so then they'll come help him. They talk out their feelings and they're happy again. In episode 7, Simulation Manipulation, there is training groups for both Chase and Adam, because they're like their teams that they're training or whatever are going head to head in like a series of competitions put up by Davenport to see which teams go up in their color level or whatever. And Chase is like a horrible teacher, aka he's a control freak, and so he doesn't let his team do anything without him. He ends up like losing all the challenges because he doesn't let them help. And then because of this, Chase decides to take control over all of his team by using his override app on all of them, but he does it wrong, and so they all just do the motions that he does now, and they have to run through a maze. And luckily Chase can see the maze, but he also has to like run throughout the whole maze in place basically, and Davenport and Adam just think he looks really stupid, and they're wondering why he's running in place for no reason. And then Davenport finds out that it was the override app and he gets mad, but then Chase explains that he just really wanted to win or something like that. And the B plot is that Leo wanted to clean the mentor's room because it was really messy, and then he thought it was the two guys that were doing it, when in reality it was Bree the entire time. Episode 8, Forbidden Hero. Leo gets hurt on a mission. I think he like twists his ankle, or like he like sprains his ankle or something like that. And then Tasha comes to the island to like nurse him back to health. And then she figures out that he does actual dangerous stuff on missions instead of just like sitting and letting them do everything. And so she doesn't allow him to go on missions anymore. She also wants him to like move back to Mission Creek and everything. She doesn't want him like training at all. And then a hurricane hits the island, and Leo ends up saving Tasha because she's about to like fly off. And so she allows him to be on missions because she's like, you saved my life and you're good at it, so whatever. Episode 9, Spider Island. There's a school field trip for like all the students that Davenport took them on, but Leo didn't want to go, and so he just stayed at the island with the rest of them, but it's like their day off, so no one wants to hang out with him. And then while Adam is like running around the beach, he finds a fossil. So Chase and Douglas want to like resurrect the fossil because it's like an old spider that they want to resurrect, even though it's an extinct species. And Bree is trying to relax and like read a book by the pool, but then Adam is annoying her because he just is loud all the time. And then since Leo wants to be included, he ends up accidentally letting the spider out when Chase and Douglas actually bring it back to life. And so it ends up growing really big because Douglas put growth hormones in it without telling Chase. And so it's a really big spider
that's running around the academy, and it is poisonous. And then it ends up biting Adam, and so they have to find a antidote unless Adam is going to die. And then Bree ends up being the one who shoots it because they need the venom to make the antidote, so she shoots it and gets venom all over herself, and then she's really sad because she just wanted to relax, and then she got venom all over herself. Episode 10, Spike versus Spikette. They do like all school-wide tests to see what abilities each student has and see like what hidden abilities they might have too. And they find out that another student has the commando app, and it's like this girl who's like very nice or something. So they're like, oh, they can't be her. She's like weak and shy. And then Chase wants to figure out how to like stop his commando app, and so he uses her as a guinea pig and purposely activates her commando app to study it. This ends up backfiring on him, aka when her commando app is activated, she becomes like very motherly and mothers Chase to the point where she like thinks he's a baby and is very overprotective of him. I think Bree is the one who dresses him up like a baby. I don't even know. He gets dressed up as a baby, making his commando app come out, and then Douglas names the girl's commando app Spikette off of Spike, and so Spike and Spikette fight in the middle of the academy. Fight because they are both angry at each other, I guess. And then to take them both down, Douglas gives Bree a temporary version of the commando app just to like activate right now. Then Spike ends up saying that girls can't fight, and so Bree and Spikette both like attack him, and then everyone is calmed down and okay. Episode 11, Lab Rats vs. Mighty Med Part 1, also including Mighty Med Season 2, Episode 18, Lab Rats vs. Mighty Med Part 2. The crossover that led to so many bad decisions later in life that we'll get to. Davenport and Chase made a renewable energy source, which is kind of like, it kind of looks like a flash drive, but it constantly soaks up energy or something along those lines. They lock it in this protective case because they want to sell it to someone, and Chase wants to have an input on who to sell it to, but then Davenport ends up taking over like the whole project and doesn't let Chase have any ownership over it and control over it. And so Chase gets mad and tries to sell it to some random guy who shows up at the island, and it's like, oh yeah, I heard you have transponder, can I go look at it? And Chase goes, yeah, actual dumbass behavior, but whatever. And that random guy turns out to be a supervillain called the Incapacitator and knocks out Chase and steals a transponder, but it's still in a protected box, so we can't get into it yet. And this is why the Mighty Med video needed to come before, because I'm just going to mention Mighty Med characters, and if you don't know who that is, then go watch my Mighty Med video, because that will explain what's going on. So Kaz and Oliver use a wormhole transporter to just go to the island because Kaz wants to look for bionics because he wants powers. So they're looking for bionics at the island. They go undercover as Frank, and then when they find out that Chase was attacked, the rest of them use their thinking skills and realize that Kaz and Oliver do not go to the school. So they're like, oh, you must be evil too, and you're working with the evil guy who knocked out Chase. And then they're like, no, not really, but they don't get to explain themselves before 3 more superheroes show up, and they fight Adam, Bree, Chase, and Leo. And then after this fight, they realize that they're both against the Incapacitator, so they're like, oh, let's go figure out where he is then. And he is with Donald and trying to get his retina scan, and like scans his eye with his energy source in order to get in his retina scan to get into the transponder. And then Chase is like, oh, if I created this problem, I'm going to get us out of it. And then like does not have any defensive maneuver, goes in front of the Incapacitator and gets zapped, and then his entire bionic infrastructure is fried. Kaz and Oliver say that they can fix him at Mighty Med, and so they all transport to Mighty Med to go with Chase. And this is where the actual Mighty Med episode starts. When they're at Mighty Med, they meet Skylar and everyone, and then they make teams to go who's going to go hunt down the Incapacitator and who's going to stay with Chase at the hospital. Leo stays with Chase, and then Kaz also stays to try and fix Chase. And then Oliver, Bree, Adam, and Skylar go to get the Incapacitator. And then Kaz does not know how to fix Chase at all because he doesn't deal with bionics, he deals with superheroes usually. He ends up using a device to switch his and Chase's brain power, so then with Chase's brain, he figures out how to fix Chase. The problem is that there's a virus inside of Chase's chip, which makes it so if his blood pressure gets too high, then he'll blow up. So they have to keep him calm. And then they think the Incapacitator is on the Eiffel Tower. I don't know how they figured it out. So they go to Paris, but then they realize that it's the Eiffel Tower in Vegas. So Bree speeds them back to the US to go to Vegas. And then they fight him for a while, but they're low-key losing until Kaz, Chase, and Leo show up in the invisible ambulance. And then they gaslight the Incapacitator into believing that Chase has like good energy in him, and so he sucks it out and then gets the virus in him and blows up. So the Incapacitator died. And then back at Mighty Med, they Kaz and Chase switch their brains again, and then they go home. The ratings of this episode were just so good that they had to create a spin-off show later, which we'll get to. In episode 12, Space Elevator, Davenport announces that they are building a space elevator at the island because he hired some guy in his company to do it, and this guy is like a weirdo who lives with his mom, and he's like 34, pushing 34, living in his mom's basement. Like, and then Chase is mad because the space elevator was his project, but he didn't really have time for it because he was mentoring and all that. And then the guy messes up the brake system on the elevator, and Chase is just going to let it slide because he's like, oh, I want you to mess up anyway. But then Davenport is the one who's actually testing it. But they launch it before Chase can tell anyone. And so Davenport is now hurtling towards space with no brake system. And then through some podcast shit, I don't know, math, science, blah, 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 they end up propelling the elevator back down, but it's going down like twice as fast as it was going up. So problematic. But then Leo stops it with his arm, because bionic arm. But then he's like, it's obviously heavy, so he's trying to hold it. But when he tries to like get out from under it, it crushes his leg. And Davenport wasn't even in the elevator when it came back down because he found a parachute and just jumped out. So it was all for nothing. And now Leo has a bionic leg. And then the B plot of this episode is that Caitlin comes to visit the island and Bree is fighting with her because they're fighting over Bob's affections. Also, I forgot to say that Bob has a long-standing crush on Bree that just doesn't go away. And obviously she doesn't like appreciate it or whatever. It's like a literal child. So they're fighting over the fact that Bob falls in love with Caitlin when she gets there, and so Bree's like, oh my god, he's usually in love with me. This is so stupid. Realizes that it's a stupid fight and just gives up and doesn't care anymore. Episode 13 and 14, Bionic Action Hero Part 1 and 2. They are making a movie about the like bionic superhumans, but they're only doing it one bionic superhuman and they're just meshing all their abilities together. And the guy playing the bionic superhuman is Leo Howard. Shout out. His name is Troy West in the show though. And then Douglas invites the writer of the movie to come to the island, specifically because the writer is his ex-girlfriend from college and he's still in love with her. And then basically lore dumps about his whole life to her, including the fact that he built an android. The android is now sitting in rubble of his old lair. Marcus definitely won't come back, guys. And then Bree falls in love with Leo Howard because he's a hottie. Here we have the writer. Her name is Giselle. And then Leo Howard, of course, Troy West. He says he has like everyone's abilities down except for Chase's because they want Chase's like chip information to see how his abilities work. And Bree is in love with him, so she just gives them to him because she doesn't care. And then Giselle invites them to be extras in the filming of the movie, and so they're there on set. And then basically Leo Howard kind of blew off Bree at the island, so now she's suspicious of him and goes to see what's in his dressing room and finds out that they are actually planning to kill them when they're shooting the extra. Bree rushes in just in time before everyone gets shot, and it explains everything. And then she explains how she gave away Chase's chip schematics and like how that's a problem. And then Giselle lore dumps that she wants to create an army of androids to take out all of the bionic superhumans because she wants to have like the android army that has control over everyone, I guess. And then the reason that she wants Chase's chip is because she wants to put super intelligence into her androids. And then what if her like main android, it might be her first android, I don't know, is Leo Howard, of course. And then she rigs the room that they're in to blow up and then kidnaps Chase to rip his chip out of his neck, basically. They end up escaping before the room blows up and they find his location. They find him. They think he's dead, but JK, he just actually faked his death for like 5 seconds and then ends up taking down the big androids that are around them. Because Douglas and Leo show up and then end up shooting all the androids that are going to kill them. They are fighting Giselle until Leo Howard comes in with a gun and shoots Giselle himself because he's like, oh, I'm underappreciated compared to the other androids. So he's like, I'm going to take over the operations as the lead android. And then Bree uses some critical thinking skills, aka Leo Howard is currently holding her at gunpoint, and then she says, oh wait, when I offered to swim earlier, he said no. So he's definitely can't touch water because he's a robot. And so she pushes him in a bowl of water and he dies. Rip to this diva. Also, to push him in a tub of water, Bree does indeed waterboard him. We're keeping Giselle up because even though she got shot, she actually ran away. And also, before she realizes to push him in a bowl of water, she says to Adam to just use his blast wave, kill him. So she was willing to kill herself in order to kill Leo Howard, even though he was just a rando android. He had a gun. You could have just disarmed him. And then because Douglas lore dumped earlier to Giselle, she, with her broken arm, I guess Leo Howard just has terrible aim because she got shot and she only got out with a broken arm, goes to find Marcus's parts underneath the rubble of his lair. In episode 15, One of Us, a diva gets put back up on the board. S1 comes to the academy and then Leo gets totally freaked out and shoots her in the face. When she like actually wakes up after that encounter, she tells them about how she's having flashbacks of her life with Crane, living with him or whatever. And so they're trying to figure out why she's getting them and also what do they mean. And while Chase is scanning like her head, I assume, and like her chip or whatever, he finds that they all have a doomsday virus on them that sets them to blow up in like 48 hours. So they all have 2 days to live. Anyone who has had the Triton app now has 48 hours to live. So like Leo and anyone without a bionic chip is safe. And since they only have 48 hours to live, they all want to do like their bucket list things while Chase is trying to figure out how to save them all. So Bree wants to throw a party with all of her old high school friends because she wants to just say how much cooler she is than them. And Adam wants to blow up the most balloons. He wants the world record for blowing up the most balloons. Douglas and Chase can't find a fix to the virus, and so Chase thinks of making a separate virus that will counteract it. But in order to do that, they have to die for like 5 seconds and then reload the new virus where we find. He does this without telling Douglas, so he's like, oh, I'll explain to Leo how to put in the new virus or whatever. And then he dies before he can just say it. But then Douglas comes back in, he figures it out. and they come back to life. And they all go and pop all the balloons that Adam blew up. In episode 16, Bob Zombie, which is probably one of the funniest episode titles ever, because what the fuck is that? Douglas creates a device that changes the intelligence of people, and he wants to test it on someone who's like really dumb. And so he uses Bob. And he ends up making him like as smart as Chase, and so Chase is really happy because he has someone smart he can talk to. And Adam is sad that he doesn't have his best friend anymore. AKA in the beginning of this episode, they were trying to cook lasagna on Bob's body, and then Adam takes the intelligence device or whatever and accidentally turns it way too dumb. He ends up dapping the whole academy, except for like him and Chase, to have the intelligence of barnyard animals. Bob ends up eating the intelligence device, so then they can't turn them back into normal people. They end up herding them into the pool, like it's an empty pool, and then just having them walk around there. And they turn him back to normal somehow. I have no idea what Leo and Brie are doing this entire time. In episode 17, Human Eddie, Davenport gives Eddie a human body, and this is because he wanted to hire Eddie to help Perry do security because she's slacking off and not doing her job. What Davenport did is that he made Eddie nice, and so instead of being antagonistic like he usually is like helpful. But then Perry ends up turning him evil again because she's doesn't like his personality, and so now he's evil Eddie and is tormenting Brie and Leo. And by tormenting, I mean that he like physically puts them into a wall. Davenport ends up figuring out that he's like antagonistic Eddie again and takes away his human form, and they trap him and Perry in the wall. In episode 18, The Curse of the Screaming Skull, it's Halloween, and all of the people at the academy are gone for some reason. I think it's another field trip. Bob didn't want to go, so he stayed home. And then they all go to this abandoned island, even though Douglas told them not to, because Perry wanted to, because she wanted to go look for stuff to sell online. And they find this black skull that Perry says she was going to leave on the island because they told her to, and then she didn't, and indeed did bring it back to the island. It's actually cursed, so when Chase touches it, he turns into a psychopath and wants to kill everyone. Brie touches it because she doesn't know that it's cursed yet, and then so they're both psychopathic and running around wanting to kill everyone. So they're trying to evade them while trying to get the skull back and bring it back to the island where they got it from. And they find out that they can actually get a cure the curse or whatever, because it's not actually a curse. It's some like chemical compound that Douglas made because he dumped a bunch of evil stuff on that island, hence why he told them not to go there. So they create the antidote. Adam ends up pretending to be psychotic to join Brie and Chase, and then shoots it into them. Episode 19 and 20, On the Edge Part 1 and 2, they're all invited to get medals from the president except for Leo, and so he's really mad and feels like left out of the team and underappreciated because of it. And then he decides to form his own team because of it, and no one is supportive of him, and they think he's just delusional. He forms a team with S1, who is now named Taylor. She's supporting Taylor Swift realness, I guess, and then someone who I put on the board. This is Logan, aka Emery Kelly, and I will be calling him Emery Kelly this whole time because I forgot his name was Logan until this very moment. Taylor and Leo realize that they can create like an energy force in between them with both of their bionics, and so that's their new power. And then Emery Kelly is there to direct it to like hit things with it. Chase says that this ability is dangerous and that they shouldn't use it, but Leo is mad that he feels underappreciated and it does it anyway. And then the B plot of this episode is that Douglas and Adam are working to make Davenport's limo for I think it's for the president, indestructible. So they're like blowing it up over and over again to see what will make it indestructible. Back at the academy, Leo and Taylor are practicing their ability, and then Leo goes too far because he isn't looking at her, and then she ends up being blasted with whatever they were making, and she's in the hospital for a little bit. When she gets out of the hospital, everyone's like, oh yay, she's okay, and then they drops the bomb that she's actually forever blind. Leo casually blinded a girl. And so because of this, he feels very guilty, warranted, yeah, you blinded a girl. And so he leaves the academy forever and goes back to Mission Creek. And then they try and get him back, even though he blinded a girl, because they're like, it wasn't your fault, Leo. No, it was. It was. It was also their fault for not paying attention to him and making him feel unappreciated to the point where he did it so. But he blinded a girl, and they want him back at the academy. And I'm like, that's crazy. Also, Taylor gets out of the infirmary, and she's sporting a new look. She's now in her heightened senses era, aka these glasses that she got make sure that she can sense items in front of her. So she's eating. And then they're leaving to go to the presidential award thing in their limo, of course. But because the limo is indestructible, that also means that they can't get out of it, and they end up dangling off the side of a bridge because the bridge breaks. The mission alert goes to like all of the students at the academy, and they all go to save them, including Leo because he's called in. They use the little energy power to disable the limo, and then Chase almost falls off the side of the bridge and says sorry to Leo, and they save each other. And then Leo ends up going to the presidential awards with them. After they get back to the academy, Davenport makes him a mentor now. And this is the last episode that Emery Kelly was in, but he was a diva while he was here. Also, this is the last episode that Taylor is in. She was a diva while she was here. Episode 21, Ultimate Tailgate Challenge. Tasha gets tickets to a football game, and then they also go to the tailgate before it. They are for like one team that's from Mission Creek, and then there's another team from Mission Creek. When they're talking about the football team, Perry gets really mad because she's in support of the other Mission Creek team. She really wants tickets to the game, but they don't offer them to her because they don't like her. And then when they're at the tailgate, they see Perry, and so Perry gets really mad and wants to steal their tickets and ends up burning their tickets so they can't get into the game. Adam and Bob didn't want to go to the football game, and so they stay home and are doing like an internet series of where they break stuff, and they end up breaking all the capsules. I remember that. Nothing else about the B-plot though. And then in order to get into the football game, they would need tickets, obviously. And so there's a tailgate challenge where if you create like the best tailgate food, then you get tickets to the game. So they're trying to win that over Perry, who's using her car to cook food. And Davenport brings in like a super high-tech car to cook it and accidentally ends up setting off like a bunch of fireworks and almost burning down the place. This whole time, Bree and Chase are trying to live the college experience, aka they're showing off to people with their bionics in order to be popular. And I'm pretty sure Chase like paints himself fully in the colors of the football team. Is like running around with the people doing like school spirit or whatever. In episode 22, then there were 4. Douglas tells him that he actually made another bionic kid. He's like 13 or something. That kid found out that Douglas was like his father, and so he wants to come visit him. And the cover story that they're rolling with is that Donald is their actual father, and then so they are the new kid's cousins. And also he doesn't know he's bionic because his bionics have never been activated. So he just thinks he's like a normal kid who happens to have bionic cousins. And he comes to the academy. Here is Daniel Davenport, aka Wyatt from Zombies, who has like the little white piece. And when he's visiting the academy, he's in the mentors like rooms, and then they're like, oh, why don't you take a picture in the capsule? Or it's like a place to take a picture, I guess. And then his bionics get activated, and he realizes that he has bionics for one, and so he's freaked out. But he also has power replication, which means that if he touches someone with bionics, then he gets their powers for that moment or whatever. And so Douglas has a lot of explaining to do. For one, they're your siblings, not your cousins, and you're bionic. Douglas actually says before he leaves the room, he's like, this is why I didn't want him here. And so Daniel gets sad because he didn't want him there, and so he goes to go sulk. And then Leo goes to talk to him because he's sulking. He accidentally uses Leo's power to create a hole in like this hydrogen tank that is used for the hydro loop. The 3 of them come to help them patch up the crack in the hydrogen tank, and they both use Adam's increased lungs capacity to do it. And then Daniel's on good terms with everyone, and he goes back home to his adoption family or whatever. In episode 23 and 24, Space Colony Part 1 and 2, Davenport announces that he is on Space Colony on some random planet that he just like made for fun, and then he wants to take everyone there. And when they get there, one of the satellites isn't working for like communication, and so Adam, Bree, and Chase go in a little spacecraft to try and fix the satellite. Chase is really mad during this whole trip at Adam for like existing in the way that he does. Like if he's making jokes, Chase is like not having it in any capacity. And then while they're off on this mission, a hole breaks up in the like dome of the space colony, so like oxygen is leaving. Let's just say that Davenport and Leo have to patch it up. Perry is also at the colony for no apparent reason. She just like snuck in. Adam, Bree, and Chase get back, and they say that yeah, the satellite wasn't externally not working. It's like something from here that's ruining it. And so Davenport's confused. He's like, who at the colony is messing things up? And it turns out to be Brain. But since they blast him into space, now he has a Darth Vader mask and breathes weird. And then he is also partnering with some doctor guy. They're trying to inject liquid bionics into people to create another army, which because it worked so well the first time. And he's using an external version of the Triton app to control people. And so he controls Donald, and they have to stop him. They're escaping on an aircraft. The doctor guy ends up sending a missile at the Earth. And I think they end up getting all the Triton app controlled people out and onto their ship. So like they're just like unconscious because they were under the effect of the Triton. They fight Crane fighter jet style. Okay, he's in a little another aircraft, and they shoot him down, and then he is dead for sure. So bye to him. And then the doctor guy ends up taking control of Leo because they're not looking, and then Leo is attacking them obviously because he's under the control of the Triton app. They end up knocking him out. They have to stop the missile going towards the Earth that he blasts like a while ago. And Adam goes out in this mech suit, and he like legit dies. And then they're all crying because like he died. And then JK, he just blacked out, and so they're all like happy that he lived. And Chase is happy that he has a brother, I guess. That's the message of it. He was still being annoying, so like he had a right to be mad at Adam. And then he smashes into the missile, and so Earth is saved, and they go back home. In episode 25 and 26, The Vanishing Part 1 and 2, aka the series finale, Douglas and Davenport work together to make a little upgrade for all of the students with their chips, which basically masters their bionics. They know everything that they need to know. They don't need trained anymore, basically. Adam, Bree, and Chase cannot get this update because their chips are too old. So now they feel less than the students. Like the students are better than them now because they mastered level set of bionics, and they can't get that. And then Adam decides in his retirement that he's going to retire to be a golfer, which is iconic. And then the students start randomly disappearing, as in like they vanish right in front of people's eyes. Daniel Davenport. The reason that Daniel is here, he technically was with an adoptive family. He came to the academy to train because he basically got in so much trouble with his bionics at home that he just came to the academy. And Douglas told Leo not to give him the upgrade because he needed to train at least a little bit for himself. Then Leo gets so tired of training him that he just gives him the update anyway. Basically, anyone who got the upgrade on their chip is disappearing. That's the reason. And they're trying to track where all the students are disappearing to because it's very weird, and they could be at like the bottom of the ocean for all they know. And they get a video message from Giselle, and then Daniel is being held captive in it. They go to the place where she's at because it's like the same lab that she was in. And for one, she got a bob, which I don't have another picture for her, but just think of her with a bob. And then she brings back the absolute diva. Marcus is back, everyone. And then they put all the students into like this big room where they plan on sending like a flash that'll melt all their chips in their bodies. They all get put in that room. The flash does happen, but they think that their chips aren't completely melted. And also Leo doesn't have a chip, so his bionics still work. Leo was the one who broke them out of the room or whatever. Their chips completely melted. They don't have any bionics right now. And in the other room, like in the main lab, they're holding Douglas and Davenport captive because they want to kill Daniel right in front of Douglas. Because Marcus is mad that he didn't love him as a son, so he's going to kill his actual son. Really rude. He did not have to fall. That's so mean. And then once they escape, they go to fight Giselle, and then she has like a lightsaber whip-esque thing, and the three of them have to fight her without antibiotics because Leo is going off to save Douglas and Davenport. But they just get lucky because she is apparently stupid and like flicks her whip onto herself, and so she gets cut into a million pieces. Giselle, dead for sure. And then they all go home and they go back to the original Davenport like house and lab to get their chips fixed. Daniel goes with them because he's just there. In the main lab, Daniel ends up replicating Marcus's powers because he's like partly bionic, so he copies his bionics and ends up destroying Marcus. So, and when they fix their chips, they get like the new versions so they can all get the upgrade. And so now they're like on par with the other people. Douglas ends up keeping all the parts of Marcus together, so he wants to rebuild them to create another Marcus, and they all say no because every time that's gone bad. And he's like, okay. And then they all reform independently. Like the robot all comes together, and then Marcus is there. And Leo's the only one down in the lab, and so he's like, oh, finally I get to kill Marcus because he couldn't when he was like a little boy. But then Douglas comes in and shoots him so that he can't. And then down in the lab, Davenport says that he needs to split up the team, aka he needs 2 of them for a new project and 2 of them to go back to the academy to oversee the new transition from, training people to like sending them on missions. Adam and Leo volunteer to stay at the academy, and Bree and Chase are going to the new thing. And this is when we are introduced to Labrat's elite force. New photos again because we have now an older cast and also a different cast. And now is the time. If you didn't watch my Mighty Bed video, please go do that, unless this one won't make sense because I will not explain who these characters are again because I went through the ringer through that video. Also, I'll mention Mighty Med, the existence of it many times, and they don't give us context because they're also expecting us to watch the show. Here's the opportunity to do that. The Elite Force era is where these little cuties come from, aka one of them is Chase, one of them is Oliver. I don't know which one. One of their hair is a different direction, but I don't know which one. And then I forgot to mention it, but this little Chase one is from season 4 because that's my favorite era of him because he's a hottie. But yeah, my sister made those for me to give her some credit. In episode 1, The Rise of 5, Bree and Chase go with Donald to Centium City, which is just a city that exists. And they go to Davenport Tower, but they meet Skylar, Oliver, and Kaz there because they are starting a new team of 5 that is called the Elite Force. And this is because they learned up that Mighty Med was completely destroyed in the wake of the finale of Mighty Med, with like Oliver's mom escaping and all that. I think they say that they captured Oliver's mom. I think they managed to do that. And then obviously Kaz and Oliver have superpowers. Skylar still does not have superpowers. Actually, I think they do say that they had to kill Oliver's mom. They didn't just imprison her. They had to kill her. Tough thing for her own son to do, but whatever. I'm going to move all them a little bit to the right because Kaz is a little bit too close to my head. These 3 want to join the team because they want to get revenge on who blew up Mighty Med and also help all the superheroes that are still out there because they're like in hiding because they're being hunted. An expansion on Kaz and Oliver's superpowers is that Kaz has fire powers and Oliver has ice powers. They didn't show that in the finale. They could just show that they could both fly, but they can still both fly. And also Oliver has super strength, and they joke about how he's scrawny and that he has super strength. And I think it's funny. And in this episode, Kaz wants to get like right into planning to destroy. I don't know if they know who blew up Mighty Med. To be honest, a villain is introduced in this episode anyway, so like I don't really care. Kaz wants to get right down into hunting down the superheroes that are still out there to help them, and Chase is like, no, we need to make a plan. And so they're feuding right now, and everyone's just kind of like letting them duel it out. A mystery villain breaks all of their, because they're in the penthouse of the tower, so they have like all glass windows. They break all of their windows and send them like a message that's like stop looking. I don't know, something stupid like that. Kaz sneaks out one night because he wants to go hunt down whoever blew up Mighty Med. He goes out alone, and so he gets his absolute shit rocked. But the thing is, by the time the rest of them show up to go find him, they all get their shit rocked. These 2 down here, named Roman and Riker, I don't know which is which. But we have Boo Boo Stewart Icon and this random guy. I'm sorry to that random guy. I just don't know the actor. But Boo Boo Stewart's here. They are both sons of the supervillain Rhodesius, who became a supervillain because they took away his powers in Mighty Med. So he's mega pissed. And I think he was the one who blew up Mighty Med. But actually, don't quote me on that. So they're his sons, and they can both shapeshift. So by the time the other 4 show up to help Kaz, these 2 absolutely rock their shit and they all pass out. Roman and Riker end up kidnapping Skylar and keeping her prisoner. And then they go and find Skylar and then end up freezing the shape-shifting mass of Roman and Riker with Oliver's ice powers. They are frozen in like this one ring, but as they're taking like celebratory photo of them working as a team, they escape. Also, I'd like to point out that this show was written by the Lab Rats writers instead of the Mighty Med writers. So the characterization of the Mighty Med characters just wrong. AKA, Oliver is in love with Skylar, which happened in Mighty Med, obviously, but he wasn't like creepy about it. He's very creepy about it in this show. So just have that in the back of your brain. Every episode, there's probably going to be a joke about Oliver stalking Skylar to a certain degree. And then Kaz is also randomly, like, he knows things. Like, in this episode, he knew that freezing the shapeshifters would stop their atoms from moving. Not my Kaz. He wouldn't know that. Respectively, he was dumb. So he wouldn't have known that. So that's why the show just has like a weird feel to it almost, and that's why like no one liked it either, because like the characters were just fell off, and honestly the plots aren't that good in my opinion. I don't really like the show. I like to make fun of it because I think it's funny. In episode 2, Holding Out for a Hero, Kaz and Oliver are having Chase help them with their powers, even though Chase does not understand superpowers in any capacity and honestly thinks they're dumb and stupid and doesn't understand them and like literally hates them. So I don't know why they're asking Chase for help, but they're like practicing their powers, and Kaz is like just naturally gifted at it. He just is great at using them, and Oliver is kind of sucking, aka his like cryoblast that he used in the first episode not very much working anymore, and he can only make ice cubes now, basically. And in the B plot of this episode is that Bree calls Skylar like the sister she never had, and so Skylar takes this as very much a compliment, and then starts attacking Bree all the time because that's the way that she expresses her love. This is like an ongoing plot throughout the episode that literally just ties up with Bree saying, "Yeah, don't attack me all the time," and then Skylar says, "Okay, I'll just do it every once in a while," and Bree goes, "Oh, whatever, that's fine." Along with superpower plot, Davenport falls off the side of the building. He has like a bust of his own head on the tower because it's called Davenport Tower, so he's hanging off of that, like barely holding on, and then Oliver takes it upon himself to go fly down and get him because Kaz says he can't, and also he wants to let Oliver prove that he can use his superpowers. So Oliver goes down there and also gets stuck on the Davin head, and then eventually he like figures out how to get them back up. Also, sorry for the glare specifically on Oliver. My lighting is like really messed up because the sun decided to come out today. In episode 3, Power Play, Oliver is still trying to get Skylar's powers back since he literally promised that the first episode of Mighty Med, but he now has the help of Chase, and so he's like, oh, Chase can help me figure out a way to get Skylar's powers back. Chase thinks of using a small amount of her one weakness, aka her lethal weakness, which is coal, and injecting it into her blood system to reignite her powers because they're just laying dormant inside of her. And then when he does this, it actually makes her really like deathly ill, and she is like coughing up lethal gas that they're keeping contained in his force field because if it gets into the vents, it will kill everyone in the building. Also, I'd like to mention that Chase did this research and then let Oliver take the credit for it. Oliver wanted Skylar to think that because he's in love with her. But then when it's about to kill her, Oliver then says it was Chase's idea, but then it ends up being a momentary thing. Like she gets deathly ill, but then she gets her powers back. Like it ends up happening. And so then Chase actually gets the credit for giving her powers back, and then Oliver doesn't, and he gets mad. In the B plot, Kaz agrees to watch a neighbor's pig for like the weekend because she's leaving. And Bree says no because she doesn't want a pig in the penthouse, but Kaz does it anyway and stinks around the pig. And in the end, it ends up being like a stealing operations that the lady has where the pig like lets her into the apartment and she steals all the stuff in there. And then they like lock Kaz and Bree out of the penthouse to steal the stuff, but then they end up going to jail. That gets resolved as well. Episode 4, The Superhero Code. Kaz's little brother comes to visit because the cover story is that the 3 of them are interning for Davenport, the bionic team or whatever, because no one can know that they're superheroes because that's a big secret. And this is when we introduce the superhero code, which means that you can't tell anyone you're a superhero, even if they're like family. So Kaz really wants to tell his little brother that he's a superhero, but he can't. And then he also gets really jealous because his little brother thinks that like Chase is like really cool because he's bionic and that he has powers. And so Kaz feels like he isn't getting appreciated by his own brother. And then Kaz lets his little brother like explore the whole penthouse, and he ends up being like this power thing. I don't know what it is, but he gets stuck in like this gate thing that like about to blow up or something, and so they need to get him out of it. But when Chase tries to do it, he gets electrocuted and literally like can't think straight. And so Kaz has to use his fire powers to get him out. And so his little brother is, for one, scared. And also Kaz is like, oh no, I showed him my powers. Now I have to tell him I'm a superhero. And then his little brother's like, oh, so they made you bionic. And Kaz is like, that's a great idea. Yes, that's definitely what they did. So now the new cover story is that the 3 of them are just bionic. And then the B plot is that Bree is mad at Oliver for breaking her stuff with his powers, even though it wasn't Oliver, it was Skylar the whole time. Episode 5, Need for Speed. Bree is offered a sneaker brand of her own since she's famous, and she's shooting a commercial for it in the park. And then when she's shooting it, she almost hits a baby in the park, and then Skylar saves it, and so now they want to do a brand with Skylar instead because she also has super speed with her powers, and she saved a baby. So now she's cooler than Bree because of that. And then they have a competition of who's the fastest. Neither of them win because they slow down the footage and they both cheated. So they're like, oh, we want neither of you for sneaker line because you're both cheaters. In the other plot, the 3 guys and Douglas have a competition of who can make a better superhero suit because they need suits for the team. And the teams are Chase and Kaz, and then Oliver and Douglas, to my knowledge. And Kaz and Oliver are the ones like trying on the suits, and then they do like a fight thing. And basically they make the suits too big, so like mech suits, but then they end up with Episode 6, Follow the Leader. I forgot to mention, they don't have like a quote-unquote lab in this, but they have something called Mission Command. That's basically like a lab, and it's just underneath the penthouse, and there's like an elevator to it, a hidden elevator in the penthouse. He gets stuck in Mission Command because the elevator breaks, and he's also with Perry. I forgot to mention that Perry was here, but she's just randomly here for no reason. He misses a mission because of it, and Skylar takes over as leader in it, and usually Chase's mission leader, and she does a better job of it, and so everyone's like, oh, Skylar should be the leader instead. And so Chase gets really sad because that's his job. And then on the next mission, Chase purposely traps Skylar in Mission Command so then he can take over his job again. Perry's a big fan of Skylar, and so she helps Skylar get out through the tunnels that are connected to Mission Command. And then at the mission site, it's like a cave thing where they're trying to get people out from it collapsing, and then part of it collapses, so the team is split up. You can only get through like the wreckage of the ceiling if they pull out certain stones that won't make it collapse. And throughout this episode, Kaz and Oliver were playing a game that was like real item Jenga, if you will. If they were like stacking stuff like to make sure that it doesn't fall. So they do this because they know how, and they make like a tunnel for the other side. While this is happening though, Skylar comes out through the tunnels into the mission site, lucky I guess, and then she figures out that Chase trapped her in Mission Command on purpose. And they talk out their feelings. She's like, I never wanted to take over as mission leader, I was just good at it. And then Chase is like, yeah, I should probably calm down about that. When they're back at the penthouse, Chase says that he's just a normal team member now because they're all equal, there's no mission leader, and anyone who needs to be a leader can just step up when they need to. In episode 7, The List, they are talking about a specific list of safe superheroes and like their locations, and they have a certain network where they talk to not get discovered by Roman and Riker. The thing is, when they get this list, Skylar wants to go see a friend of hers who's a superhero to like talk about if she's safe or whatever, and then they end up meeting in the park. But when she does this, she leads Roman and Riker right to the superhero. And then they end up, I think Oliver is with her, so they end up fighting Roman and Riker in the park along with the superhero. I forgot her name. It has something to do with a crossbow or something like that because she has a bow, to my knowledge. Other people use cybercloaks to show up. I don't know why and who did. The superhero ends up getting hurt in this fight, so they bring her back to Mission Command, and Kaz and Oliver use Mighty Men knowledge to bring her back to life. In episode 8, Coming Through in the Club, Oliver wants to go to the park to see his favorite Olympic athlete that's like performing there. It's not really performing, he's just like there for some reason. He's like an Olympic weightlifter or something like that. When they get there, Kaz goes with him, and then the guy whose name is Clutch ends up thinking that Kaz is his biggest fan instead, and so like wants Kaz to help instead. Oliver gets jealous because of this and accidentally drops a really heavy weight on Clutch's foot and breaks his foot. He obviously goes to the hospital after that, and they go back to the penthouse, and Oliver's really sad. So Skylar goes and kidnaps Clutch from the hospital to go talk to Oliver at the penthouse. In the other plot, also at the park, is a children's Olympics competition. Just children compete in little events like the Olympics. Bob is there from season 4, so shout out. He is using bionics to win, and so Bree is mad at him because of that. And Chase supports it because he's like, oh, the winner gets to carry the Olympic torch. I've always wanted to carry the Olympic torch. I'm going to help you, Bob. I'm going to help you use bionics to cheat. Bree kidnaps a little girl to also help her cheat to beat Bob because she just doesn't want him to have that because he's cheating. She'll allow the other girl to cheat if she wins. And then Bob ends up winning. He gives it to the little girl instead because it was fair that way. Because I did the last challenge like without bionics at all, and she like almost won, and so Bob just gives it to her anyway, and then she carries the Olympic torch with her dad. And I think Chase steals it in the end, aka like he uses magnetism map to literally like steal the torch and run away. Episode 9, The Intruder. A random little kid breaks into Mission Command, and I should have gotten a picture of him because he's in multiple episodes. In my defense, I kind of forgot he existed when I got these photos. This is AJ, and Chase is very mad about this because it was his security system that AJ is hacking, and so he tries to make the security system better and keeps kicking AJ out, but AJ hacks it every single time because he's like a child genius. And then AJ ends up hacking Chase's chip to let him in. From hacking Chase's chip, he also makes his bionic go haywire on accident and makes his magnetism app like work too well to the point where he cannot control any magnets coming towards him. And basically the entire structure of like the penthouse is made of metal, so they're trying to fix it. And then they end up bringing him out of Mission Command, and putting him in his capsule, and that resets his bionics, and he's okay. I don't know what any of the other people are doing in this episode. Truth be told, I have no idea. In episode 10, The Rock. Kaz is being very suspicious because he came out of the tunnels connected to Mission Command and wouldn't explain where he was. And then they end up following him and realize that he's just hoarding a bunch of stuff from Mighty Med, including the Arcturian, which if you didn't take my advice and watch my Mighty Med video, that's the magic space rock that will grant anyone superpowers if they touch it, but also kill someone if they touch it direct. And also in this episode, AJ makes a list of all of the members of Elite Force and ranks them on how necessary they are to the team or whatever, and Chase is at the bottom because he has like no good bionic abilities. And also Bree is underneath Skylar because Skylar has like 42 powers or something. She has a fuck ton, and then Bree has like 3 sets of bionics, and so Bree wants more power now because she feels like less than, because speed was her thing and now Skylar has super speed as well. Since Chase is at the bottom, he also wants to make a like hover bike that will have him go fast because he doesn't have transportation to missions. These two can fly and then these two have super speed, so he doesn't have any transportation, so he wants to create a fast bike that will get him to missions quickly. And back to the Arcturian, once they find it in the storage thing that Kaz has, they want to take it to a safe house because it's literally dangerous. So they plan to take it to one of Davenport's like warehouses or whatever. But Kaz and Oliver want to keep it because they want to see if they can indirectly touch it again and get more powers. Chase finally convinces them to actually take it back because they kind of have to. But it goes missing because Bree took it and wants to touch it to get more powers. I guess she didn't know that if you directly touch it, it was going to kill you, because she was about to touch that thing. But Skylar gets in the way, and so she doesn't. See, when Skylar gets in the way, she also blasts Bree with like one of her powers, and so Bree's low-key dying because she like it like rebounded off the Arcturian. So it's the power of the Arcturian mixed with Skylar's powers that like is literally killing her. Skylar ends up like being a conduit of power from the Arcturian to Bree, and so Bree comes back alive. I don't understand this, nor do I want to care. From this encounter, Bree gets some superpowers. So now she's bionic and has superpowers. She's like the first dual ever. And Skylar also loses some of her powers because of it, because she like touched the Arcturian to literally be conduit of power. So she's not dead at least, but she lost some of her superpowers. But she still has like a good amount. And I think also in this episode, Chase thinks AJ stole something, and so AJ runs away with the hover bike that they made and is like going full speed towards like a wall. Kaz and Oliver have to go fly up to him and get him off the bike, and then the bike ends up blowing up. In episodes 11 and 12, Home Sweet Home, Part 1 and Part 2, Skylar gets an email from someone on her home planet, and then Skylar says that she can come visit the penthouse. And so a girl named Scarlet comes to visit and looks exactly like Skylar. Since all of the people on her home planet look exactly like Skylar, in the other plot of this episode, Chase makes a robotic girlfriend, makes her like everything that he likes, because he is lonely. And then Kaz thinks this is super fucking weird, but also wants to hang out with said robotic girlfriend because she's really pretty. He basically just makes her like anything that Kaz likes, and so they watch like football together and stuff. And then Chase ends up letting the robot decide between him and Kaz, and she picks Kaz. And then this cycle repeats itself, aka he makes like many robots, and they all pick Kaz. Kaz has like 8 robotic girlfriends right now. Along with Scarlet coming to the penthouse, the reason that she came was to convince Skylar to go back home to Caldera, except Skylar doesn't want to because she likes Elite Force life. So since Skylar won't come by choice, Scarlet then kidnaps her and brings her home to Caldera. See, the thing is, she told no one about this, and so everyone's like, oh, why is Skylar missing? That's really weird. Oliver is of course the first one to notice because he's obsessed with Skylar, so he's always thinking about her. So Oliver and Bree then transport to Caldera to go fight her, and they also get kidnapped, and so they are in a jail cell with Skylar. And right now Caldera is living in like Star Wars-esque political issues, aka like there's a republic, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they have an evil republic and a rebel group. Scarlet kidnaps Skylar to have her join the rebel part of the politics issue, and Skylar doesn't want to do this because she honestly does not give a fuck. And then they remember that email works on Caldera, and so Oliver and Bree send an email back to Kaz and Chase. Kaz and Chase come with Kaz's like 8 girlfriends, and they all end up fighting Scarlet and throwing her in a pit of lava. And also when they fight Skylar, Bree uses her powers for the first time in front of everyone, and everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck was that? And so she has to explain that she got superpowers from the indirect touch of the Arcturian. Episode 13, Sheep Shifting. Oliver asks Skylar out for like the 100th time, but she says yes this time. She would never date that man, especially since now he's a creep. He wouldn't be that much of a creep if it was Mighty Med characterization of him, okay? He's like weird. I don't even want to, I like remember some of the plots that he had where he like filmed her in the morning when she was getting ready. I do believe that like was a running joke in one of the episodes. Also, he like wrote her a song and created a music video at one point in the show. I don't remember when though. And then basically she agrees to go on a date with him on Halloween, and Kaz is really sad because he wants to do pranks with Oliver for Halloween. Meanwhile, Chase is trying to figure out the shapeshifting powers of Roman and Riker to find out what way to stop them, and he ends up creating a serum that gives you shapeshifting powers because he figured out like how they're created or whatever. And Kaz takes the serum because he's like, that would be fun. And he's also just kind of dumb. And so he ends up crashing Skylar and Oliver's date to come show them his shape-shifting powers. And then he ends up getting stuck as a sheep because when he shifted, he also shifted into the mindset of a sheep, and so the mind of a sheep doesn't know how to shapeshift out of that. The reason why Kaz was stuck as a sheep for most of this episode is because Brad Stephen Perry directed this episode, so he needed to be out of the acting role in order to direct. And then Bree doesn't know about this whole shapeshifting plot, so she just sees a random sheep in her living room and takes it to a petting zoo because she wants it to have a home. They fill in Bree about how that was actually Kaz, so she goes back to the petting zoo, takes a sheep, and then comes back, but it turns out to be a random sheep. Oliver's like crying with a random sheep, trying to get him to turn back into Kaz, and then Kaz walks in the room and says, oh yeah, the serum wore off, little girl was petting me. So that's awkward, but also who's this random sheep? And the big plot of this episode is that Perry is terrified with Bree the entire time because she was on like a TV show a long time ago, and all like 30 of her co-stars die on Halloween like every year, so she's scared that she's going to be next. And then she has a bunch of near-death experiences in the episode, but she doesn't die. In episode 14, Game of Drones, Chase wants to make a drone for a race in the park that's just like 4 drones, specifically, I guess. And Kaz wants to help him because he's really interested in the drone. Oliver gets jealous that Chase is hanging out with Kaz instead of him. Gaslights Kaz into believing that Chase isn't putting any of his input into the drone because Chase did say that, but after they had that convo, he felt bad and then put all of Kaz's things in there. When this happens, Kaz at the drone race goes a little bit crazy. It makes the drone go crazy and it starts attacking everyone because it's also a military drone. And then Perry wants to walk a tightrope in this episode because all of her family did it before her, and it's like between 2 skyscrapers. So she's doing that the whole episode and they think she's gonna die. And then apparently they were supposed to set up a net and they didn't. So she was supposed to have a net the entire time and she literally didn't. And she made it across. So she did the tightrope thing. And she almost gets hit with the drone because it's like a killer drone. In episode 15, they grow up so fast. Tasha comes back for an episode. We love that. And it's with, I forgot to mention, but in the finale of the show, she announces that she's pregnant. So she comes back with her newborn baby. Bree wants to watch it because she's like, oh, I get a little sister. That's fun. She's actually a terrible caregiver for a baby. The baby hates her. Skylar's just better at taking care of it. But then Bree's like, no, I'm going to take care of it. And ends up losing her. The baby's name is Naomi. Naomi ends up going down to Mission Command and getting into one of Chase's things. Chase is making a de-ager this episode because he saw a Snapchat filter of himself old and said, I don't want to look like that ever. So he's serving like the 8-year-old on TikTok. He ended up just making an ager. And so Naomi picks it up and ends up growing to be like teenage years. And they're trying to figure out how to de-age her back to being a baby, obviously. And Tasha comes back and is like, where is my fucking kid? Like, why aren't you giving me my kid? They end up figuring it out like right before she sees. And so she's a baby again and they give her back. When Naomi was in like teenage version, she was like kind of freaking the fuck out because she was in the mind of a baby and in the body of a teenager. And her and Bree bond for the fact that Bree just comforts her. And so now baby Naomi likes Bree. And now we've reached the finale of the show, episode 16, The Attack. Thank God the season was only 16 episodes and the show got canceled after this because I don't think any more of the show would have done good. It got canceled because it was bad, okay? At the beginning of the episode, Bree discovers she has a new superpower, which is flashlight hand. Chase brings home his new girlfriend who's named Reese, and everyone's like, ooh, that's weird. Chase shouldn't be getting a girlfriend in general. He's fucking weird. And that's because Chase's personality in the show is weird. Yes, he's very weird. But I can't deny the fact that he's a hottie. And also, they're like very weird coupling. They're like in love and they met like today. They go out to help the city because Roman and Riker are like terrorizing the entire city. So they go out and Reese is left at the penthouse because Chase is like, don't let her leave because he thinks that he won her girlfriend again. So he's like, don't let her leave. Like, she can't leave me. And then Reese gets into Mission Command and steals a superhero list. But Douglas catches her when she does this. And so she ends up using powers to knock Douglas out. And this is because she's actually Roman and Riker's sister. So Odysseus' daughter. He has like 12 kids or something like that. So like, I think all 12 kids are terrorizing the city. It's not just Roman and Riker. So it's like 12 shapeshifting forms are running around destroying stuff. And then they're fighting Odysseus himself. And then he reveals that Reese is actually his daughter. And Chase gets a little bit heartbroken. He's like, oh, I finally got a girlfriend. And everyone also blames Chase because he let her into the apartment. And then Bree's like, no one gets to mess with my brother except for me. And so she blasts him with her flashlight hands and it ends up being like a power that knocks him out. And they all go back to the penthouse because they're like, oh, Reese is in there to see like what she did. And they find Douglas unconscious. And then Chase threatens war.
If it's a war they want, then we'll give a war.
And then the ending scene is Reese going to find Odysseus like passed out on the ground, and then they talk for a little bit and they say like, oh, we'll get him back, we'll take over the world. And the show was canceled. So, and that's all of the Lab Rats canon. I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed writing this video. I've had it written for so long that I just like never got around to filming it because I knew it was going to take a long time and didn't want to do that for myself. But I'm so excited for this video. And if you enjoyed this video, I have so many ideas for this series. So let me know if you have any shows that you think would be fun. Also subscribe if you want to see other ones. I have a Henry Danger one coming up. I'm very excited about that one. I have so many video ideas planned in general that are not in the series too. My next video I think coming up is about Liar Liar Vampire, which is a Nickelodeon movie, which I'm very excited to make a video about. Thank you for watching.